Oh, there he is. That's what I'm talking. He's the one I'm talking about. Bernie Sanders in the house. Bernie, 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 Bernie.
I do criticize him. I just don't call him a coward in these things. However, Bernie strikes me right now as kind of doing what Obama did. Like Obama ran on all these platitudes, but he had this massive organizing army and he left them on the White House lawn. I mean, he didn't use it and then just threw up his hands and said, well, Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan can't do anything. I mean, Bernie didn't win the presidency, but I mean, his Slack channel has more people than DSA has signed up. I mean, just the sheer apparatus that Bernie's campaign over 4 years created, you could be doing serious things. And if you want to take him at face value, maybe you disagreed, but all right, he said, we're going to get Biden in and then we're going to fight him on day one. Well, it's day one, and I don't really hear anything from Bernie right now. I'm pretty sure he's smart enough to know he's not going to get a White House parking pass, much less labor secretary. Why do you think he's not using that army? Because right now you just have these different islands, Sunrise Movement, Justice Democrats, but it's not an organized progressive movement to tap into this leverage you're speaking of.
I love the brother, and you know, you even in love, people have deep disagreements about these things. But I think again, he's fearful of the neo-fascism of Trump. People look at Biden, they don't really want to tell the full truth. He's created the best economy that we can get. Is this the best that we can get? You're going to tell that lie to the people just for Biden to win?
I'm not looking to be unduly pessimistic here, but I do believe in honesty. And I don't think you can move forward if you don't have an accurate picture of the present. The left isn't just anemic and in despair because it's perpetually disorganized or because they're licking their wounds over a political loss. It's also not just because this is an incredibly depressing historical moment that we are all living through, although that certainly doesn't help. I think there are really three pieces here to think about. First was the way in which Bernie's loss occurred. Now, I just watched this Bernie Blackout documentary, which is well done. It is somewhat torturous to relive all the ups and downs of the incredibly abbreviated primary. But most painful was to watch all of the hopeful energy and optimism and organizers and workers sending in their $10 and students knocking on doors and the willingness to believe that things could be different, that things could be better. To actually invest their emotional energy and then watch as someone who barely campaigned had the waters parted for him by Obama and an overwhelming media propaganda narrative. To be so close to having a shot at real change and then watch it all crumble in record-breaking time from a massive coordinated establishment effort fed a sense that the project not only failed, but was perhaps doomed from the outset. Second was the way in which Bernie bent the knee. Now, it was one thing to watch Bernie get out of the race prematurely, in my view, when he could have stayed in longer to gain more leverage and provide a viable alternative should additional questions and credible allegations arise regarding Joe's past. It was another thing to watch Bernie's cringeworthy live stream with his friend Joe and see all the people who hated him and trashed him and would have gone to any lengths to stop him come out with all of their faux praise. But the real killer was to see Bernie actually chastise his supporters who were not ready to climb on board with a candidate who doesn't share their values or their view of politics. Now, I understand why Bernie views the landscape as he does, and I really do believe that he thinks he is acting in what is national interest. But in that moment, not only did it seem like the project was potentially doomed, it appeared that the revolutionary rhetoric had been just that, rhetoric. And now the revolutionary was trying to sell us on the transformational change of some task forces, seemingly abandoning his legacy of unvarnished truth-telling to be just like all the rest, willing to sacrifice every principle and 40-year-long ideal in service of beating Trump, fully buying into the lesser of two evils framework that leads to endless hell and the fundamental impossibility of real change. After all, why would the corporatists offer anything better if they can just be slightly better than the bad
From
guy?
political revolution to political dodgeball. Bernie Sanders was on Meet the Press this morning, and with all the caveats that obviously I respect everything Bernie has done for the progressive movement. I am not declaring him a sellout or a fraud. I got to keep it real. This was very disappointing, particularly him dodging questions on Cornell West's third-party run, his somewhat, in my view, undemocratic answer on whether there should be a real Democratic primary, among other answers. Let's start with his straight up dodging on questions regarding Cornel West's third party run.
He said just with Senator Sanders and some other friends reintroducing Medicare for all. So they reintroduced Medicare for all because all of a sudden now, after the Democrats don't have any power, now they want to push for Medicare for all. I wonder if this is going to set it back. Aren't we on the 1 yard line? And if you do this, it's going to push us back. We're going to have to punt. Is it you're going to actually push for Medicare for all? I thought. Oh, so when they actually had the leverage to do something about it, they didn't. And now that they don't, this is called virtue signaling. This is Bernie Sanders virtue signaling. He's never going to fight for you to get Medicare for all. He's never going to use his leverage, and neither is Representative Pramila Jayapal. In fact, when they had leverage and activists like us tried to get them to use their leverage, they called us violent and said that we were setting the movement back because they will never fight for you. Bernie Sanders is never going to fight for you. Bernie Sanders right now is the cuck of all cucks, and this is nothing but a virtue signal. And you want to see this guy tweets it out. This guy, Congressman Greg Casar, he got like 900 likes on it. He's a congressman. He's introducing Medicare for all, one of the most popular things in the goddamn country. He could only muster 900 likes. Why is that? Because people don't like Medicare for all, or because they know you're full of shit. That's the I'm going to show you the first three tweets underneath his tweet. I'm going to show you them. This is the first one. Fool me once, you're not fooling me again. They know you're full of shit. That had 102 likes. The one calling the congressman full of shit. Here's the next one. Sav-A-Joe Marie makes the show. She said, I've yet to see any of you marching with us at our over 60 nationwide actions demanding national improved Medicare for all. 60. Had 68. None of those people showed up. Bernie Sanders didn't show up. He didn't even mention it. He even mentioned when we had Medicare for all marches. Not only did Bernie Sanders not show up, so Bernie Sanders is a cuck and a liar. And he's now your enemy. I know that sounds crazy, right? But he agrees with me. No. What he agrees with is not ever helping you and doing what Joe Biden says and the establishment says. Medicare for all is 100% volunteer, and we get in the streets and we actually fight for the change we need. This is simply a talking point for you all. To us, it's life or death. It's fundraising season. Why is Bernie Sanders out there? This is fun to get. Everybody's getting ready to run. There's fundraising. There's fundraising now that they're out of power. You can't go, well, why don't you just vote on it? They can't do that. Why didn't they submit it when the Democrats had control of Congress? It's because they're all phony frauds. Bernie's a fraud. Representative Pramila Jayapal's a fraud. They're just as big of frauds as the Republicans. They're frauds, except the Republicans aren't promising you Medicare for all. That's the second one, Sav-A-Joe Marie. Here's the third one. The Dems wouldn't even allow a vote on it the 2 years they controlled the House. They controlled the House for 2 years, and the Democrats wouldn't allow a vote on Medicare for all in the middle of what they said was a deadly pandemic. Must be re-election season again. Exactly right. Elected politicians talking about Medicare for all must be campaign season. They know what you're doing, Bernie.
Did an interview with him. As we all know, Cornel West is now running for the Green Party nomination for President of the United States. And there's this little clip here I wanted to show you. I found this interesting for a number of reasons. So let's listen and then we'll react.
And it's true that, Brother Bernie, I'd always tell him, and, he's my dear brother forever, but I always tell him, he got to be true to himself. And in being true to himself, he's not the kind of brother that goes for the jugular. I'm a different kind of brother. I'm a different kind. You know what I mean? I'm a different kind of brother. We on stage and we singing Ebony and Ivory. He gonna sing in his tune, and I'm gonna sing in mine. Right. And we still brothers, but we sing at a different kind of style, a different kind of way of going at it. Now, of course, he had righteous indignation at Wall Street, and he would go over the jugular when it came to Wall Street, greedy elites and so forth. But I think one has to have that same or similar sensibility when it comes to militaristic policies abroad, imperial policy abroad, as well as the corruption and the role of big money in both parties.
Mm.
And I mean, it's a way of saying, well, you know, how do you decommodify healthcare? How do you decommodify campaign finance? How do you demilitarize your foreign policy? How do you decarbonize the air? Well, all of these have something to do with the organized greed at the top.
So the comment on Bernie is what I found most interesting. He's saying Bernie doesn't really go for the jugular, I do. And of course, he doesn't in his classic Cornel West way. A lot of love and affection and adoration. I still get giddy every time I hear him say, like, Brother Bernie, or, you know, Brother Kyle. He's called me Brother Kyle when he was on Crystal Kyle and Friends. And he's just a lovely, lovely man. So look, on the substance of what he's saying here, this has always been my biggest bone to pick with Bernie Sanders. Now, I love Bernie, and Bernie awakened an entire generation to what's possible politically. But the fact of the matter is, his biggest misstep ever since, you know, climbing the mountain and being the head lefty, the left leader, his biggest misstep was when he dropped out to support Joe Biden. He did not get the policy extractions that he could have gotten. You know, I remember when Bernie announced his endorsement of Joe Biden, it was like a hostage video. Where, do you support $15 minimum wage, Joe? He's like, yeah, Bernie, I think that's a good idea. And then, like, a lot of these things he didn't follow through on. So, you know, at the time, I was screaming from the top of my lungs, the best thing for Bernie to do is to meet with Joe Biden in private and give him a list of executive orders specifically that are in his power that he could do. For example, under the Bayh-Dole Act, Biden has the ability as president to just lower all prescription drug prices across the board. Because under that act, if there was taxpayer money that went into funding the research and development for a drug, then the U.S. government can control the price. So he has the authority. In the past 20 years, there's been no drug that's been made without taxpayer assistance. You can just lower drug prices across the board. That's one example. You could not only legalize marijuana completely, but you could free all the nonviolent drug offenders who are locked up at the federal level. There's a number of things he could do. Now, some of these things, Biden's done half measures, right? Like the student loan debt reduction. His plan was pretty good, Biden's plan, but it still didn't go all the way and get rid of all the student loan debt, right? But Bernie had Biden where he wanted him, because Biden would have given a lot of concessions to get that Bernie endorsement, because it's super important to be unified going into the general election. And he could have used his leverage. List 10 things that are very, very crystal clear. Here's the executive order I want. You could literally draft the executive orders in the specific language and be like, this is, if you sign on to signing these executive orders, I will be your number one cheerleader. Instead, he just got like vague concessions of like, yeah, I'll support $15 minimum wage and stuff that involves Congress. But Biden has less control over Congress, right? What he does have control of is the executive branch. He could have demanded, as commander-in-chief, no more aid to Israel, no more aid to Saudi Arabia. He could have demanded these things. He didn't, right? So he didn't go for keep it real, he did not go for the jugular. He just didn't. And so if he did that approach, then honestly, I would have become the biggest Biden bro back in 2020. I would have been arguing from the top of my lungs to go vote for Joe Biden. He's already agreed to these 10 very specific executive order concessions, and these are huge wins for everybody. So I think the criticism of Bernie is legitimate. He doesn't go for the jugular. But my criticism of Cornel West is, you are by definition not going for the jugular if you're running as a third-party candidate. Look, I want to be kind to you, and I love Cornel West, and I got nothing against the Green Party. I've voted for many Green Party candidates, but keep it real. It is by definition not going for the jugular if you have zero prayer of winning. Sorry. It's just a fact.
Because I don't think
indictments, along with Donald Trump making it 19. Trump down in Georgia, turning that mugshot into a record-breaking fundraising haul. According to Politico, Trump's campaign claims to have had its best day of fundraising yet, pulling nearly $4.2 million on Friday night alone, making it the single highest 24-hour period of his campaign to date. Fundraising totaled $7.1 million in the 48 hours since his mugshot was released. Much of that fundraising comes from merchandise, T-shirts, posters, bumper stickers, coolers, ranging from $12 to $40 on that website. You see some of it there. The campaign also has been peppering online donors with emails and text messages. Trump's campaign says it has raised nearly $20 million in the last 3 weeks. That figure is more than half of what Trump raised during his first 7 months in the 2024 race. So we kind of expected this, Jonathan Lemire, that Donald Trump was going to make a virtue and, yes, a T-shirt of his mugshot, had it pushed out almost immediately in a fundraising email on Thursday night. The question is, yes, it's exciting, and yes, it raises a bunch of money for your base supporters who do view you as a martyr and a victim who's being prosecuted by Joe Biden. That's not the way this works, of course, but that's the tale he's telling them. The question is, does it help him beyond that? He does have to win, if he gets through this primary, a general election. Does a mugshot do all these cases against him, as he believes, help him?
Yeah, there was speculation when he was first indicted in New York back in April when we thought there might be a mugshot. There was a race to say, well, Trump's going to monetize that. And of course, no mugshot was taken there or in the federal cases. But now that we've got one in Georgia, they didn't waste any time. And we should know that's a lot of money. You're right. You can get it on coffee mugs or T-shirts. I even saw some footage over the weekend about people getting it as tattoos, although I don't think Trump makes any money off of that. It seems like it would be deeply painful. But let's remember, of course, a lot of the money that Donald Trump's raising has to go to his legal bills. It's not all going to be spent on his campaign. And this is something that, as you said, really, it's one thing to give him some energy in a primary, very different in a general election. And Ken, on the subject of Georgia, one thing that struck me is this idea of some members who were indicted along with Trump want these speedy trials. Explain to us what that means, and if they're granted them, the Sidney Powell.
Welcome to another episode of the Post-duopoly show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
What's poppin', my friends? My family, we are back. Welcome. This is great to be back on the Post-duopoly show with our brothers. In the Post-duopoly left, we have Russell and my good friends, Kid. What's up, Kid, from Heartlands Media? What's poppin'? I'll make sure you check your audio, Kid. There you go.
Oops. Hey, good to see you guys. It's great to once again kick the two-party system down. And I think if this isn't the evidence you need to see that the Democratic Party is filled with a bunch of frauds, I don't know what else you need to see, because I think we're going to be ripping the Democratic Party to a whole new low. And I'm just looking forward to all the sharp words and the audience also joining in on the curb stomping. So let's have a fun show.
What's poppin', Russell? Kid not able to make it today. Well, it's great that we got Russell from Due Distance with us. What's poppin', brother?
It's a Sicilian message. Keaton Weiss sleeps with the fishes. I'm negotiating with David Dole to take over as my co-host. We're gonna get a whole leftist mafia thing going on.
Oh no,
that would be a blood sport. That would be that would be like Jerry Springer shit. We would just be throwing stuff at each other.
Yeah.
It's it was funny, and I know we're gonna get into it. Watching Bernie speak this week, and you all probably feel the same way. I haven't watched him speak in so long. I didn't know we got a raise for our imaginary minimum wage boost. I didn't know we're at 17 an hour now of nothing. 17 an hour,
yes.
Why not? If you're just going to propose things that you're not going to actually force, why not make it 25, 27, right?
I felt very odd watching Bernie Sanders speak over the weekend as he was disrespecting Dr. Cornel West. Well, I wouldn't say disrespecting, but just more or less backstabbing him, because when he was talking, he also brought up his same talking points of we got to do Medicare for all. Trump is a fascist. We got to preserve our democracy and all of that. And every time he was speaking, it's just like, you sound like a friend that's asking me for money. You sound like an ex that's begging me to take them back. And it's like, I've lost all patience and respect for this man. And the fact that I've said anything kind, or even when we covered him in 2020, having hope for maybe a potential win in the Democratic primary, I regret it now. I realize now I have to carry that L of ever saying anything nice about Bernie. I know that, Nick, you went that extra mile. You went out there and canvassed for this man, and it's just his whole movement was a lie. His whole movement was just to sheepdog us in the Democratic Party, and so many people wasted time and energy that could have been put into something far more valuable.
Now, to that point, kid, because I got some pushback that I can respect as well. Why I said the Bernie Sanders movement was a mistake. You guys got to understand, Bernie pisses me off so much. Mm-hmm. It's personal. You know what I mean? Kind of quit my job.
Yeah, you should. You should be upset.
Travel across the country, advocating for an open grifter, con job. Con man, like, he's one of the most shameless people in politics, and we'll cover this more when we get to the segment, because I've been asking this question: was the Bernie Sanders movement a mistake? Once again, I got pushed back from people even on my same wavelength, where they say, nah, the Bernie Sanders movement was a mistake because at least we made friends along the way. We elevated the conversation. We shifted the political discourse and consciousness of this country. And that's where a lot of pushback comes from. Nick, look at all the good that we've done because of Bernie, even though he sold out. My question, this is why I say in response to that, when I say, was Bernie was it a mistake? And I told you guys, I personally don't regret going down to South Carolina and speaking to my brothers and sisters in my community, radicalizing them, helping them become class conscious. But I'm asking you guys this question: did we have to spend $400 million to do that? That's the question.
Let's before we answer it.
Yeah, let's all individually answer it.
Yeah, let's hold it.
We could have did that same thing without spending $400 million. You know what I mean? We could have did the same thing with a mutual aid, horizontal movement building strategy instead of propping up the Justice Democrats and the careers of the professional managerial class. CJ, I pass to you. I think I'm open. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's get back to the so we had the mashup video that we can. There's a lot to respond in here, so I'm bits and pieces we kind of already responding to, but this first short couple of segments, let's talk about Trump, and then we're gonna get to the 30 signs that you're an empire simp, because that applies to Bernie. That's why it's kind of essential to kind of go over those 30. You're a simp, a U.S. empire simp, before we get to the Bernie story first. Yeah, it's a great. I sent it to all of you guys, the article along with the video reading, and we're gonna get to that. A lot of great points made in that that Caitlin Johnston wrote. But first, just to get your reaction to the record-breaking.
They're delusional, CJ.
Record-breaking fundraising. It said he made $4.3 million. Everybody, in the first 12 hours, 4.3 million, like 7.1 million in 48 hours, but CJ, 4.3 million in 12 hours. How did it? Go ahead.
In response to this,
amazing.
Clip, and I'll pass to the Russell after this, but in response to this clip, you can see, like, yeah, Trump can raise a lot of money with his mugshot. It's good for the primary season, but what about the general? And Morris Joe, man, he got me sweating bullets at this point. Joe Scarborough, that is, because this guy has been saying that Donald Trump stands no chance in the general election, with his chest out, very passionately saying, yeah, this may work in the primary, but Trump stands no chance in the general. There's polls now that shows that Trump is up by 2 points. And I'm sure we're gonna cover that. I don't want to go out. I'm sure we're gonna cover this later. Trump is up by 2 points. And remember, Biden has to be up by at least 4 to 5 to win, according to the Electoral College. But Russell, I think you want to chime in. I'll pass to you if you want to chime in from here.
Yeah, going back to what you were talking about before, was the Bernie campaign worth it in regards to what it cost? No, I mean, it's kind of like when you evaluate that in your life as a person, where you're wiser than you were before, and you say, man, but did I have to make that horrible mistake to get here? Yeah, actually, yeah. So you look back and it's like, I wish it didn't take that. But, I'm not the only person that got red-pilled by that campaign. I've said this before. I've written articles about it. I was a total shitlib, man. I was a big Clinton part. I went into 2016 supporting Hillary. I supported Hillary over Obama in 08.
Wow.
That is how much in that direction I was. And I know that's not just
fighting, fam. We would have been fighting back then. I hated Hillary Clinton supporters back then. Even back then, even as a young black kid supporting Obama, I remember hated Hillary Clinton supporters even like 20 years ago. But go ahead.
It's generational, man, because we went through this whole Reagan thing, and then Bush getting elected after Reagan, and there was just this feeling, God, man, we just can't win. We just can't win. And then when Bill Clinton triangulated, honestly, the feeling was that he had solved the Rosetta Stone. He held the Rosetta Stone of American politics. Really, it seems stupid now, but it made sense at the time. Because Democrats, everyone was still kind of thinking in those terms, except for the Ralph Nader people, and frankly, there weren't a lot of them. Everybody thought, well, this is how you don't get your ass kicked by the Reagans and the Bushes, right? You gotta be like Bill Clinton. You gotta be kind of tough on crime, and you gotta be measured on welfare. I mean, this is what everybody believed, man. Even Giuliani, who now is remembered very differently, he was kind of a Clintonian politician. He was kind of a third-way politician. He was more of a Rockefeller Republican, or he wouldn't have gotten elected twice in New York City, even with the public mood. So yeah, like by the time you get to Hillary, man, I had come of age with Clinton and Clintonism. And that campaign, and I'm not the only one who has that story. Listen to Jimmy Dore, man. Jimmy talks about being a 2-time Obama voter. We're almost exactly the same age, I think, or we're around the same age. And yeah, man, he's got the same story, and probably for the same reason. Because if that was your generational experience, it took a while to really break out of that. And the thing that broke a lot of us out of that was the Sanders campaign. Now, it's not just me. Look at how many people Jimmy Dore alone has influenced and affected. And could it have happened another way? Maybe. But the spectacle of a presidential campaign gave such an opportunity to see what the media was really about. Because you'd always believed, if you came up when I did, I get the impression, present company did not really believe this stuff. But I definitely came up with the belief that the Democrats, and this is what held the whole ball of bullshit together, the Democrats would make it Switzerland if they could. This would be Scandinavia, but it's the Republicans. It's that WWE wrestling thing that now we look at from the outside and laugh at people who believe that. But that was what most of us believed at that time, particularly if you came up in the age of the Clintons.
You guys got to remember, to Russell's point, it usually takes a few years to feel the effects of the policies, broad sweeping economic policies. So a lot of people who believed in this, I'm assuming, there wasn't the immediate effect of Bill Clinton deregulating Wall Street, shipping jobs away. So people probably were still under the illusion. Isn't that right, Russell?
Well, Nick, that's a very important point. Okay, so a big part of what made Clintonism work, or what allowed him to leave office in spite of his scandals with such high approval ratings, was the economy was fucking off the hook in the 90s. It was, I always say, if you couldn't make money in the 90s, You were one lazy son of a bitch,
Yeah,
man. There was
I was
just
making money.
money falling out
See,
of
I don't
the
know how
fucking
I don't know how
trees.
true that was, but I remember as a kid,
No,
I
but
remember hearing that. No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying I agree because I remember hearing that. I don't
No,
know
but
how
this is
true
but
that
this
was,
is why. This
Yeah.
is why, and this is what we didn't realize at the time, and this is what a lot of people who will still defend Clinton's record don't realize now. It's very obvious, but the media just never framed it this way. Every time you've had the invention of a new technology that's really going to transform society, there's been a boom economy. When they introduced the radio, when they introduced the car, when they introduced TV, there was a boom economy because when you're talking about something that's really going to change the face of society like that, how much are you going to sell to people who are starting from zero? They don't have a TV. They don't have a car. They don't have a radio. It was like that with the internet and the home computer. All of a sudden, the whole country had to be wired, high-speed cable. Everybody had to buy a computer now. You had all of these new types of corporations being introduced. You had everyone getting employment from the linemen who were going to lay those lines to the people starting those companies. Kermit the Frog could have been the president in the 90s. You would have had an off-the-hook economy. It had nothing to do with Bill Clinton. But it coincided with Bill Clinton coming into office with these third-way policies. So the impression that a lot of people, myself included, got was he solved it. This is the way. This is the way. And it didn't hurt. You know, now we look back in retrospect and we could see that Bill Clinton was always beating up on black and brown people. He started his campaign at the birthplace of the KKK. But because you had so many black leaders coming out and supporting him, it was very easy, if you were not from that community in particular, to be like, oh, look, everyone's happy. Like, I don't even have to feel guilty about all this money I'm making because everyone's happy. Everyone's happy with him.
Russell, me and CJ talk about this all the time. I still remember as a kid hearing the bullshit about Bill Clinton being the first black president.
Oh God!
Yep.
God damn it.
And it's in hindsight now, guys. Why I say the United States is the most propagandized country. Motherfuckers, niggas that was hanging out in the 90s had no idea how propagandized they was.
Yeah.
Saying ridiculous shit.
Yeah.
Like Bill Clinton, you know, the person who used slaves as governor of Arkansas? The guy who used literally wage slaves?
Yeah.
That guy.
The one who signed the
like
1994 crime deal? That guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Also invites
it's crazy now. It's crazy now when you look back at who was it? Bernie Mac who did a whole routine about that? I don't want to smear him if it wasn't him.
I can't remember.
It was Bernie Mac, right?
Hold on.
I can't remember names.
Let me check the Google machine.
A prominent feeling and thing that a lot of black capitalist people in pop culture would say. But Kid, I think he was going to chime out. I didn't make it up.
I was just gonna let me read some of these headlines. I'm not reading the articles. Let me just read the headlines. Here's the New York Sun. The record haul underscores how President Trump's legal woes have been a fundraising boom for the campaign. Here is the Washington Times. When Red, a Republican Party fundraising platform that Mr. Trump uses as his official campaign site, is selling shirts and long sleeve T-shirts and the other items bearing Trump's mugshot under the logo "Never Surrendered," as he surrendered to them. Politico Europe says Donald Trump has transformed his notorious mugshot into a record-breaking fundraising opportunity. Right after being taken into custody, his team started selling merchandise, which raised $4.18 million on Friday, his campaign's highest 24-hour collection.
Now, CJ, just real quick,
Go
a
ahead.
quick question
Go
on
ahead.
that point.
Do you?
Now, the theme that I hit on all the time is how the two-party system and the liberals and conservatives, they are part of the overall capitalist class, and they are all in it together, right? So call me a conspiracy theorist if you want. But you guys think all that money that CJ is listing off, do you guys think that only conservatives benefited from this? So when you hear liberals say stuff like, yeah, we should release the mugshot. We should release the mugshot. I promise you, and MSNBC, CNN got record ratings probably. relative to recent times. New York Times and CNN, MSNBC got a lot of clicks. So the point is, they are in this together. I'm sure there are a lot of liberals who wanted to see this happen because they knew they would financially benefit from it as well. The capitalist class scratch each other's back.
Sure.
I see one chime in. Go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I would say that Mugshot being released might have been an adrenaline high for the vote blue, no matter who, blue MAGA, who thought, oh yeah, look how embarrassing Trump looks right now. They're trying to embarrass him, but with corporate media, they're going to put on the act to appease their audience, but they're happy about this too because it gets clicks and views. Probably personally, they all want to see Trump walk away from this situation in Atlanta, Georgia, and he goes back on the campaign trail. Hell, if he can continue campaigning while being indicted, while dealing with legal issues, they're probably going to be happy about it too because Trump brings in views. We're not for Trump. All these major corporate media institutions would be going under. But what I have to say to the blue MAGA people, to the diehard vote blue, no matter who sycophants that are out there, be careful what you wish for because this has the opposite effect on those that are Trump supporters or those who are sitting on the sidelines, maybe considering supporting Trump or anything else. This is going to motivate people because that could resonate with individuals. They're going to say like, well, hey, Trump got his photo taken, but he's one of us. He's one of us now, theoretically in their mindset. And the thing is, this kind of goes back to the Bernie Sanders movement as well. What we were talking about, was it a mistake? Well, it shined a light on how much corruption's within the Democratic Party, but also within corporate media. But it also shows the fact that at the end of the day, somebody like Trump can capitalize off this entire system and be unscathed. If Bernie Sanders had even a fraction of Trump's audacity, or dare I say it, brazenness, to and put that on a campaign trail, we would not be referring to Bernie Sanders as a cuck or a sellout. I mean, again, Trump is able to use this embarrassing moment that many of us would be humiliated by and turn it into profit. And the one thing I've said to people who've been pushing back at me, saying that, oh, kid, you're nothing but kind to Republicans. I'm not kind to the Republican lawmakers, but I will give the respect where it's due. Donald Trump is a showman, and he knows how to run show business. And I am not going to underestimate somebody that can manipulate the media and can manipulate any kind of embarrassing situation. There was a charity event sometime in the 90s, and it was part of a skit, and this person walking by pours popcorn all over Donald Trump, right? And he just goes along with it. Everyone's laughing, but Trump rolls with it. You can't humiliate this man because he could turn it into gold. And that's pretty impressive. And anybody else, they'd be embarrassed.
What was the show he had where the whole point of the show was you had to sales sit or make up a business
The Apprentice.
I'm like, and this is why, and we're gonna cover a video in this segment, same segment. I'm gonna shift it to a little bit different. It's supporters, but it's black support in particular, which is crazy, is flipping. And some of these black people that are making these videos are saying he's more relatable. They're like, how many people, how many cousins and people I know that's got charges. It's like this is making him like it's backfiring. But anyway, let me just read this headline and then we'll get to that. That's the very next thing I'm going to show you. So Trump campaign raises $7.1 million in fundraising since Mugshot was taken Thursday, Fox News confirms. And I'm going to scroll down just to read the details of the fundraising haul. Trump 2000 presidential campaign confirmed to Fox News on Saturday that they have pulled in nearly $20 million in fundraising over the last 3 weeks, which coincide with the federal indictments in Washington, D.C. and Mugshot from Atlanta seen around the world. And here's the details. I'll end here. Former President Trump's campaign said of the almost 20 million, 7.1 million was collected after his mugshot was taken in Atlanta on Thursday. Trump's team said they raked in 4.18 million, keeps moving, on Friday, which was the highest grossing day of the entire campaign. Any comments on these final details before I bring up the video about the black support Same segment, just a different sort of support. Go ahead, guys.
It should come as no surprise that he was able to rake in this kind of money. What have all of us said in some form of another about Donald Trump and his political movement? 81 million plus supporters. He kept his political movement together. Now, look, Trump is like any other politician. He'll take advantage of people just like that. But unlike Bernie Sanders, he kept his organization, his movement, his key players that he could work with together. And look at where he's at. He's ahead of the other Republican candidates in the primary. He has his entire organization together. It is an unstoppable juggernaut at this point in time, and I will be surprised if he doesn't win the primary at this point. But it should come as no surprise that he is able to capitalize and make money off this for his movement, and it motivates his supporters to fight for him even more. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and start disrespecting people when they're able to bring in that kind of money and have that kind of loyalty. That's power. And it is to be respected and not underestimated, which is something a lot of liberals are going to be crying about somewhere down the road, because this is not going to work the way they want it to work. They're like Wile E. Coyote going after the Roadrunner.
Well, this stopped being about Trump about 5 exits back on the American Empire Highway. Trump is a brick through the window. And before you had enough people who wanted to throw a brick through the window to elect him in 2016, he's become so bulletproof because now even more people want to throw that brick through the window and they don't give a fuck. And also, Biden never had supporters. Biden only ever had negative support. They only ever had people who voting against Trump. So that's a very weak base to challenge a popular uprising with. That's what this is. It's a despised, dissolute aristocracy that, like all aristocracies facing such a situation, just keep making it worse by trying to clamp down with censorship and suppression of the popular mood, which only builds more backlash against them. And it doesn't hurt that Trump plays the role well. I mean, the man does seem like someone who sacrificed a goat for eternal youth and vitality, because he seems fresh as a daisy, ready to go. Right? Most people, they do a few years in the presidency, they look like hell. He looks the same. He's fine. He's funny. He's fresh in his interviews. That you put him next to the Pepperidge Farm guy with Alzheimer's that is Joe Biden, and people who didn't even fulfill the technocratic promise of what people at the very least expected, basic competence. Why not go for Trump? Like, you're not giving them any reason not to.
And that's the point. And I think that that's a great segue to this. You're not giving this support, that black support that Trump seemingly has accumulated or taken or siphoned, since they say that about Green Party votes, but siphoned from Trump. I'm sorry, from Biden. If you look here, our RBN sister Sabby's tweet here, and I think all of us, I think 3 of you I've seen, 2 of you I've seen your tweet about this, but look what she points out here. Trump has 20% support from black voters. With every indictment, he gains support. The media made Trump look like a martyr. Ask people in the hood how they feel. You'll hear different responses from mainstream media or corporate media. Follow the thread. Now, look at this here. This is amazing. Do you understand? Like, I know these numbers only because we've been dealing with these numbers, probably all of us. If a Democratic president, is not getting in an 80 percentile of black support, they are not going to win the presidency. He's getting 61%. So let me just read it, and then I'll pass it to you for your comments, and then we'll go through this thread that Sabby put together. 91% he had in 2020 black support. He's at 61% according to the latest Fox News poll in 2023. And then look at the difference with Trump. He had 8% in 2020, and then this year, in the same poll, I'm assuming that they're referring to 20% Go ahead, guys.
That's unheard of.
Go ahead. That's what I'm talking about.
Well,
Go
the
ahead.
thing is, like, look, okay. First of all, Trump getting 20% in 2023. Can you go back to that image up there real quick? If you
yes,
can?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
go
again,
ahead.
look at that in comparison from 2020 to now to 2023. That is absolutely devastating and humiliating for the Democrats, who for years pandered themselves to the black community, saying, "Oh yeah, we care about black voters, we care about black issues." No, they don't. And then number two, this is something that Savvy talked about as well. Notice 61%, 20%. Where's that other 10% at? Where is the other, or dare I say, the other 20% at for voters? Because either half of that is non-voting, half of that is probably not voting, or the other half is voting third party or independent.
Right.
So that means not only is Trump getting 20%, but that means there's another 20%, or there's another 10% that it's going all in for independence or not voting in the electoral system. And this is a sign of things to come for the Democratic Party. And no AOC or Pramila Jayapal or Bernie Sanders can convince us that Biden is a better candidate, because the Democrats have abandoned black people. They did more of that than abandon black people. They abandoned everyone along their entire base. This is the end of a political party, and we're witnessing firsthand. And I, for one, have to applaud it. Keen, Russell. Sorry, holy shit, I got Joe Manchin now. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, like I said, Keaton's not going to be around anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry, Russ. Sorry about that. I screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, as CJ was saying, like, for anyone who doesn't know, I think most people in this space know, 20% for a Republican?
That's crazy.
Fucking unheard of. That is unheard of. I think you got a combination of things that are making Trump so bulletproof. You know, part of what I've mentioned a few times, which again, it's kind of generational. You've got this moment is reminding me a lot of the moments before the Reagan backlash. You know, there's the sense that the cultural revolution has gone too far. You've got that feeling, not only as they would like to lead you to believe among white MAGA people, among a lot of people feel that way. There are a lot of conservative people from a lot of communities who don't like a lot of what they're seeing. You've got, it depends on where you are. I mean, here in New York, it's not, I don't feel like things are dangerous, but you got San Francisco has no stores downtown anymore, right? And we can talk about why that is, but in terms of how that impacts voters in different places, you got the same thing. New Orleans, all these places have shut down, they've left. You know, there are a lot of cities around the country now that are crime ridden. And, you know, our take is going to be, well, that's 40 years of neoliberalism. But the voters really don't give a shit about all that. What they want to know who's going to fix it. And the Democrats are the ones who are getting blamed for it, as they were towards the end of the 70s. And people turned to Reagan, a lot of people turned to Reagan as a solution, right? He's going to come in and fix it, and he's going to make things make sense again. There's that same feeling of people feeling like the country is spiraling out of control. It's scaring me. The economy sucks just like the 70s. Working people are suffering just like the 70s. Interest rates are off the hook just like the 70s. And they're saying, yeah, man,
It is a mirror. It is a mirror image. You know what? I never even thought of that until you just said that, and I was just having flashback. This is a mirror image. Both of these guys are actors who are now swept into power, who have this mandate by this conservative mandate. Doesn't Trump have a conservative mandate? We call it MAGA. You get what I'm saying?
Right,
like this is like the same thing, and the same thing that precipitated the Reagan Revolution is some of the same themes that are happening now. What are they laser focused about? Trans people. What were they laser focused about right after gay rights in the 80s because of AIDS? The Reagan Revolution. This is some of the same things. Same thing with black. So we're coming out of the 70s with a lot of black power themes. So you're talking about same sort of things happening right now. This is like, I'm having flashbacks when you said that. I never even placed it that way. But this guy right here on screen, I'll pass it to Nick. I think one of you, I couldn't hear one of you.
Well,
wanted to chime in, but
what's really just to finish up on that point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I was a little kid, but I can remember the transformation, and I've said this before on our show. If you didn't live through it, I think it's hard for people to imagine how quickly the entire culture can be transformed. Like, you would not believe how fast we went from bell bottoms to Back to the Future. You would not believe how fast we went from Frank Zappa to Madonna. It was like boom, boom. Within 4 years, the country was unrecognizable after Reagan got elected. So you're not just talking about an election. What I'm talking about is a conservative cultural backlash that almost sweeps away the last 20 years.
You know what was going on? That was a big part of that. The police state, Nick. You think this shit is crazy now? They would show up to cities with batarams, armored trucks rolling through the cities. They would be having shootouts on the street. This shit, like, so I'm starting to now, this is kind of heightening my sensibility about what's happening.
Well,
I already thought this was sort of a revolutionary time, but go ahead. Go ahead, kid.
Well, history doesn't repeat itself because there's always, but there is a rhyme.
It's a rhyme.
Yeah, it's a rhyme. So in other words, look, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, human beings are still the same. I always look at it think of it like a stage play. The only thing that's changed so far is the props and the things that we use in this great act that is the tragedy that is humanity. I mean, we're still seeing man's inhumanity to man and the corruption that's running unchecked over us. I mean, we know what to do to make things better, but again, we have people in power and a media that is dictating to us how to think and how to feel. And somebody like Trump comes along, and I think at this point he's probably more effective of being a wrench, be it not the best kind of wrench into the system, but enough for us to talk about it and what we can do afterwards, because you can't reform the system from the inside. It just can't be done. But it's our job right now to show people like, hey, this isn't the first time this rodeo's been going on. It's been going on so many times that you probably lost count. That's something we need to take into account for. Hopefully enough people will be waking up, and that's why we have RBN, Due Dissidents, Hard Lens, Jimmy Dore, etc. You know.
Yes. Let me play the video. It's a couple of videos, and then we can close this segment. Get to 30 signs of how to tell if you're a simp. This is some good insight to those. I mean, if you're a campaign person, this is some good sort of anecdotal stories, insight to what's happening with people who are turning to the Trump campaign. So let's listen. It's only 45 seconds. They are all short. They're not over a minute, but let's listen.
This indictment is causing Black people to support Donald Trump more. They had a video of Trump going down to be indicted in Atlanta, and there was neighborhoods of African Americans cheering for Trump because they understand how they have been done by the system. They understand that their people have been attacked by the system for generations. So they see this attack on Trump and they relate to it, and it's causing most of them. All I saw on TikTok was people supporting Trump. And I think this indictment that this corrupt DA did is going to backfire. It's going to have droves of people that support him that never would have supported him before. This indictment is...
any reaction before I play the next video? Had you heard this before? Had you heard this? I'll put that out to everybody. Had you heard this sort of sentiment before? And if not, speak on it, or whatever other reaction you have. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to keep mine real short on this one. But in regards towards this prosecutor, I've said this on my show, and this is a warning to all these liberals who are going to probably be wetting themselves if it comes to fruition. Mark my words. They better hope to God that these prosecutors and everybody else is trying to go after Trump are squeaky clean, because if there's any scandal, any kind of break in their shield wall, and Trump walks out of this, he is going to be such a force and with so much political ammunition that he will truly be impossible. It won't matter what he said between 2016 to 2020 or what he's saying now. Trump will become an unstoppable force. So my warning to vote blue no matter who. You wanted this. You wanted him to go behind bars. You wanted a mugshot. Okay, you better hope your football team that you got are squeaky clean. They don't have any scandals, because if they do, if there's anything that could cause Trump to walk away and all this is behind him, I'm just only going to laugh at them. But you witness a whole bunch of meltdowns and witness a lot of people crying again, because Trump will become so unstoppable and will galvanize his supporters as well.
You know, I'm going to be careful how I say this as a guest on someone else's channel. The deep state, I believe, is not going to allow that man to be president again. Enough said.
Okay.
Yeah, they're that against it. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, because they are that against him. If they're willing to throw these many indictments, they're willing to do all this stuff. They are that. I mean, they changed laws. They changed the law in New York just so he can add the rape case. But let me play this video so we can move along the show and get to the next segment here. Here, this guy kind of says it more plainly without any sort of political analysis. But let's listen.
I don't mean no harm, and I don't give a damn who this offends. But if that nigga Trump get convicted of this crime and he can still run for president, I'm voting for his ass. I'm voting for that nigga. I'm voting for him. If that nigga gets convicted and he can still run for president, just to see what the fuck he do, because that nigga funny now. Trump is funny as hell. I'm voting for him. I'm telling you right now, okay? So just miss me with it. Make America great again.
Oh.
I don't mean no harm.
Yeah, that guy's the best.
Man, it is. Go ahead, Nick. I think, Nick, you were going to chime in. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, 'cause I haven't chimed in yet on the story. I told you guys before, man, if we wanted to get 1 million subscribers in 2 weeks, we would make videos like these guys.
Yeah. That's all we have to do.
You guys got to remember, being black Trump supporters is where it's at. But the polls show the substance game. So it's not just the social media trend, right? Now, I'm a post-duopolist. I see these videos and I kind of cringe because how you guys fall for this bullshit. But I will say this. Black people, led by liberals like Al Sharpton, Hakeem Jeffries, the entire Black Congressional Caucus, Black and mixed leadership, John Lewis, all these people, they destroyed the negotiation power of our community. How does it make sense for a community to vote for one party at a 90% clip? And then black people then turn around and say, why are you guys not doing anything for us, as they continue to vote for one party 9% of the time? You want to know who's the hottest commodity every 2 years? Suburban white women. Because suburban white women voted for Trump 2 times in a row. Suburban white women voted for Trump at a 55% rate last election. 55%. So Trump won, but not by a lot, fam. So Democrats, they got to win that. They got to win the support of white liberal women. So what do? They support the police state because that's what white women in suburbs want, right? They do everything that white women in the suburbs want because white women in the suburbs are not stupid enough to vote for one party at a 90% clip, which as our black leadership advocated for. So even though I see this clip and I cringe to death, seeing these Negroes chase MAGA likes and retweets, but it's still good overall to see people who are going outside the liberal Democratic Party plantation that led black wealth to be at a worse point than it was at the civil rights movement. So I told you guys I am a very scientifically minded person. So if we voted for the Democratic Party and black wealth soared, nigga, CJ, I'll be phone baking right now. I'll be and we had the evidence, right? That's how I am. Well, y'all hate my ass. I'll be like, nigga, Joe, you see what Joe Biden did for black wealth? But that's not the reality. The reality is black wealth was tanked under Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
You know,
black people are 91%. I'll report on this before. I'll get you in, kid. I know I'm ranting. I'll get you in there, kid. I'll report on this before. 91% of the unemployment claims are black people since April. So Bidenomics is not working for our community. We have charlatans like Al Sharpton and many of these people at the March for Washington that was endorsing Joe Biden.
Yeah,
they are stealing our people out to a party that's doing nothing for us. And now they're not even pretending to do anything for us because people vote for Democrat at 9% rate, which is why Dr. Cornel West scares the shit out of him. Because he's finally giving a lot of these people who've been on the plantation for a long time another option, right? But Kate, I know you want to chime in.
Well, there's one thing interesting to point out that many people, especially black voters, are looking to leave the liberal Democratic Party, and yes, okay, so they're talking about Donald Trump or supporting him, but there's been an interesting phenomenon that's been happening for me personally. I've been speaking to libertarians and, dare I say, Trump supporters, and I've been finding my conversations far more pleasant, or dare I say it, again, even going forward, more open to talking about third parties or leaving the two-party system than I ever would have with liberals, vote blue no matter who, or Bernie Sanders supporters says we got to be pragmatic. I've been finding those conversations to be more pleasant. Now, I'm not changing anyone's mind, but I'm getting the same response back of, I didn't think about that before. You're bringing out a good point. I didn't really look at how the two-party system's screwing us over. I'm still going to vote for Trump, but why would it be like this? And again, it's just been simple, gradual steps, and I found more advancement amongst that group of people who are associated maybe with voting for Donald Trump than I would with liberals. And that has been such an interesting. I don't know how it's been for you guys, but I've been speaking to far more open-minded conservatives and Trumpers and libertarians than I have ever with Democratic voters. I mean, maybe this is something that post-duopolists like ourselves can take advantage of and say like, hey, you don't have to vote Republican either. You could do something far grander.
I think lately leftists, especially radical leftists, have been in more communication and contact with libertarians lately. I must say the last 12 to 48 months, we have been in more conversation because of the war, because of other privacy things. Let me play two more videos, though. This happens to be Kodak Black. Now, I don't know his music. I listen to rap, and I'm a little older rap.
You're old school. You're classic Coca-Cola.
The J. Cole, like Kendrick, those are the younger ones I listen to.
Yeah, I'm stuck in the 90s.
Yeah, I listen to more 90s. So, Kate, I don't know his music, but I do know he has millions, and he got millions of followers. So this guy is talking about supporting Trump. Guess how many people will be watching his TikTok, wherever he's playing this, is the point that I'm making. His reach and what he's saying in only 50 seconds here.
That boy Trump, man. Hey, Uncle Trump. Trump 2024, you hear me? Come on,
man. Jesus Christ.
And we need Trump in office, man, forever, man. Just like how them Chinese motherfuckers and the Russian and Korean motherfuckers, they are their president. But that's just their president, you hear me? We need Trump.
Deep political analysis right here.
The best thing for America, you hear me? For sure. Trump the best thing for America, man. I respect that boy Elijah, his whole little setup, his whole run now. Even if he ain't Freeman, like, if Trump just that GOAT, this shit, and if Trump was in office, he would have went to go get Britain already.
Well, I am moved by the deep political analysis we just heard there. That guy is
that was great.
That boy is modern W.B. Du Bois.
Okay,
I have tears in my eyes. Chomsky would be proud.
We just got one more after this.
Deep
Go ahead, Nick.
geopolitical knowledge on display there.
All right, so here goes this last one. This is another one I saw. Let's play this one right here.
This is how I know most American people are robots, because how y'all looking at this whole situation lets me know that y'all have no individual perspective. America only treats people like this when they feel like they are trying to show them I'm still in control. They're trying to embarrass him. He's a president. He has Secret Service, like Charleston White said. He cannot go to prison. It's not going to happen, which lets me know this is about a form of control. They're trying to embarrass him and his team. They're trying to break him. They're trying to show him you are not in control as much as you want, and he's fighting back even more. That's the issue.
Like, is it possible that she could be projecting what's happening to her as a black woman onto him? Because I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not a therapist or anything like this, but go ahead.
my initial thoughts seeing this, CJ, is these motherfuckers and many people on the right sound like abolitionists for Trump. I mean, I co-founded 10 Demands. Bam, I co-founded 10 Demands. I'm pretty consistent on that. That's why I had the positions I do on Trump as I do, because I don't trust the system inherently, right? So I want her to bring this same energy, and I'm not saying she don't, because I'm not aware of her work, but I want our brothers and sisters to bring the same energy regarding civil asset forfeiture, which steals millions and millions of dollars of our wealth every year. So I'm very consistent on this. I'm just confused by the law and order, capitalist, authoritarian, big state loving police state bootlickers who all of a sudden, they sound like they read 10 Demands when they talk about Trump prosecution.
Well,
anyway, Kate, go ahead.
I think this image of Trump, this mugshot, look, how many people are really engaged in politics like ourselves or our audience, okay? Because, again, this is something that we've never seen. Normally, when a politician has their mugshot, that's the end of their career. They're embarrassed.
Not anymore.
And they're put aside. Trump broke that mold, and he's still going forward. Americans never seen this before. The only thing close to it is Bill Clinton saying, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." Monica Lewinsky, and then he still goes on. But Trump, however, again, so many indictments, so many courtroom dates, all this other stuff. I mean, the man might as well have a suite in every single courtroom in America, not to mention having extramarital affairs with adult actresses and all that other kind of stuff. But, I mean, this is somebody that people haven't seen, and I think many Americans are shell-shocked, like, okay, he's still going forward. He's not embarrassed. He's not doing, "I'm so sorry for my actions." He's like, no, I'm going to keep going forward. We haven't seen this in quite some time. I can't think of any other president.
Well, but this is what I'm saying. I mean, Trump. It's not about Trump. It's about fuck this system. That's it. I don't think it goes any deeper than that. Have you seen anybody here articulate a case for Trump in terms of his policies? No. It's clearly this glee about who hates him. And this is where you can really see how blind our aristocracy is. Yo, everything you speak against becomes wildly popular. And you're not scared of the pitchforks coming? You speak against Joe Rogan, his numbers go through the roof. You speak against Trump, he's unbeatable. He gets stronger with every indictment. Doesn't that tell you maybe it's not about Trump? Maybe it's not even about Rogan. Maybe it's about you. You don't like it. They'll embrace it.
Spot on. All right, let me finish the video and then we'll close this here.
And I find it weird how y'all want me to care about his taxes. Y'all want me to care about him groping women. I don't care about none of that. It ain't got nothing to do with me. Everything that they're trying to go against him for is his private issues. When Biden is still president, he's giving all of our money to Ukraine. The issues that America,
the Ukraine
people have issues with, lets me know why they treat y'all how they treat y'all. Robots.
That's not good for
Ukraine.
Ukraine.
This is how I know most.
That's not good for Ukraine support
who cares about Ukraine?
Bad.
God damn it. Again, let's be very clear here. Ukraine is that friend that keeps on coming to your house, knocking on the door. Hey, man, can I borrow $100? Hey, man, I promise I'll pay you back. I promise, man. I'll do whatever I need. Just give me some money. Yeah, Ukraine is your broke friend. Ukraine is Karen. Ukraine is Ken. Ukraine is that bum person, okay?
Wow, Ukraine. It's worse than that. It's your bum friend, spending the money on freaking prostitutes and coke.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys see that?
Sugar.
You guys see that Zelensky said, he like, guys, I'm willing to have elections if you guys give me like $5 billion or some shit like that. Like he said, so essentially he's saying, if you pay me, I'm willing to have democracy in our country. I'm sure those elections are gonna be pristine,
free, fair, clean, all good.
I gotta look at the exact number. I'm gonna do a segment later on it. But Zelensky essentially trying to bribe the West and saying you're not gonna do elections unless you get a certain amount of money. Now, my last thoughts on the last segment to round this thing out. Doesn't it feel good to be a post-duopolist who watched this election with nothing but intellectual curiosity and using that as an opportunity to educate people, right? Like, I could not imagine the amount of stress I would be under if I was a Biden supporter. Hell, if I was even a Trump supporter. I think a lot of this bluster and boasting here from them is them nervous as shit, right? Because for us, we don't have to be nervous. And one thing I'm gonna say, and I'm interested in your guys' pushback if you have any, is I don't want you guys to underestimate the Republicans' ability to fuck shit up.
Oh yeah.
Now understand, do not underestimate the Republicans' ability to fuck shit up. Also, do not underestimate the strength of Trump derangement syndrome. So we talk about how unpopular Kamala Harris is. Remember, guys, Trump is disliked by 60% of the voting populace. And people sound radical as fuck in the beginning, fam. People sound radical as fuck in the beginning, fam. You guys know that Jill Stein hit 7% of the polls at one point? Because people were like, oh my God, Hillary versus Trump again? I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And then they saw an ad from a Democratic super PAC talking about how bad Republicans are. Then they said that you're going to see a clip from Donald Trump saying something stupid. And then all of a sudden, the Trump derangement syndrome. If you guys think it's bad now, fam, wait till June next year. Wait until Trump does a rally and you see all these MAGA sycophants doing crazy stuff. Wait till the Trump derangement syndrome really kicks in, fam. So that's what I'm saying. Go ahead, Russell, if you want to chime in. But do not underestimate the Republicans' ability to fuck things up. I still think this is very hard to predict because I think electoral politics is unpredictable capitalist bullshit, right? When it comes to two parties where the empire wins no matter what. Who knows who's going to win in a situation where the empires benefit no matter what? That's why it gets be in our position, because if Joe Biden loses, I'm going to laugh at the liberals. If Donald Trump loses, I'm going to go ham at MAGA for losing to Kamala Harris 2 elections in a row.
Yeah, God damn it. How did you do that?
Anyway, go ahead, Russell, and then we get Kid in here. That might come my final thoughts on that segment.
I think that as in war, in politics, morale is decisive. And I don't know if you have any libs in your orbit where you can check in on what they're talking about outside of, secondhand or third hand. But because my Facebook page was built off my theater work,
shit.
I get to see what they're talking about. And listen, they're demoralized, man. Like, the only people I see putting up that, like, yeah, the Republicans are like the bad guys in a Frank Capra movie. Are you with me? The only people I see say shit like that are over 70, man. Like the people, the Hill bots, the people who were all on with her. I don't hear a fucking word out of them, man. Because they just can't they know Biden sucks. They know Biden is an embarrassment. They know even on the shallow identity politics that they build their political identity around, he's an embarrassment to even that. So they don't say shit. So when you look at that, the difference in those Trump voters, man, they let you know. They're very excited about going and throwing that brick through the window or whatever they think they're doing. That gives them an inherent advantage in any clash, I think.
Yeah, I think those Gen Z for change kids, those Gen Z for Biden kids, I think they have no idea how much damage they're doing to their long-term reputation.
Oh God, those failures.
Yeah, that guy.
To your point, Russell, I do feel what you were talking about, the demoralization. That's why when you see these paid TikTok Gen Z people, you can tell they're manufactured and paid by the White House. And the only people who are falling for it are other liberal boomers because they're getting roasted by their entire generation. As they're saying stuff like Gen Z stands with Biden, nigga, I see the entire Gen Z Twitter roasting their ass.
Exactly.
But anyway, I'll pass it. I know we want to get to the next.
Real quick.
Go ahead, Kid, and then we go see that kid.
Real quick here. So obviously, Nick, you handled a perfect job in number one, calling out MAGA Republicans if they lose to Biden, and of course, Russ, you did a great job in calling out the fact that look, liberals are demoralized. I mean, look, we have to look at this through another lens too. And again, it was brought up in this conversation. We can sit back and not have the stress of having our skin in the game of Democrats versus Republicans. I say we embrace the ability of actually bringing in a new perspective, that is third party, breaking away from the two-party system, and actually building movements and organizations that can actually bring in change. Because once the dust is settled, once 2024 is done, people are going to be starting asking, what's next? What's the next step? What's our next objective? And we have to come here together, collectively stronger, to have that other alternative. And it is our main job, our prerogative right now, to start calling out and the need to have more representation of independent voices that are not part of the two-party system. And if we can capitalize on that, I think we could see a beginning of a real movement, the likes of which MAGA will fail in comparison against, the like of which the Bernie Sanders movement could have been, if we keep to where we're at in this initiative of actually breaking away. That's why this show, the Post-duopoly show, is important. And by the way, final note too, look, when election night's happening, I'm cooking myself a ribeye steak and enjoying the chaos. So no, man, I'm getting a nice glass of wine, nice shot of Japanese whiskey, gonna smoke a bowl, ribeye steak, some nice side dishes, slice of cheesecake. I'm gonna fast for 2 days, and on election night, I am feasting. I'll do a live stream too.
Right on. All right, so let's read a couple of super chats, Nick. So here goes a brand new member right here, Daniela Madols Cutter. I hope I pronounced that right. Welcome to the RBN YouTube community. And then Janice with the super chat. 2 years younger than Russell, and I despise Clinton from the jump. Saw them as reps astroturfing the left. Knew the economy was based on tech.
Yeah, you know what? You were probably one of those Ralph Nader people that I fucking used to yell at in those days. Yo, man, I've told this story before, man. I wish I could meet up with that guy and apologize to him on the night of the 2000 election. First I was watching it in a bar, and first they called it for Gore, and all was right with the world, right? Because I'm a vote blue no matter who person at that point. And then they call it for Bush, and then they say they don't know who won. And the first person I saw with a Nader button, you motherfucker, do you fucking see what you did? I still wish I could apologize to that guy today.
Well, the karma is going to come back at you, because if you vote for Green this year, you'll have the same thing happen to you. So it'll come back to you. So
the karma will be balanced.
Watch, he'll actually be a Democrat voter this time around. So that person you yelled at will be a vote blue no matter who person. Be like, oh, so you decided to vote Green now, huh?
Here goes this is Axel Stife, and it says most large cities are becoming Vegas, just a strip. I don't know where we were referring to on that one, but here's one from American Autopsy. Powernomics by Dr. Cloud Anderson is a useful analysis of racial divide in capitalism that could be used to bridge that gap I'm seeing holding us back. And let me see if there's another one. It looks like there is another one from Axel. I think that's Axel. The biggest badge of honor and anti-establishment personality is a mugshot, and the establishment served it up on a silver platter. Thank you for that super chat. Thank you for all the super chats. I'll read two more. Go ahead.
After you read the super chats, I have something I want to quickly add to the story. Something I
absolutely.
Stream to the Trump story.
Why don't you just add it, and then I'll read them after. Yeah, you can add them now. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna show you guys this, because I saw this earlier. Since we're talking about the Trump mugshot and the delusional liberal analysis that was happened earlier this stream. Check this out. The American people see that the Democratic Party is obviously doing this political con job on Donald Trump here. So, CJ, the judge set the trial date to March 4th, one day before Super Tuesday.
Wow.
And then Democrats want to tell people that this is not political. And this is one of the Republican people here. I recognize the guy, Byron Daniels. So this is a Republican, so I acknowledge that point of view. March 4th, the day before Super Tuesday, their attempts to interfere with the 2024 presidential election are so brazen, it's disgusting. How you pronounce that? Judge Chukan should be thrown off the bench and run for DNC chair. So I just want to give you guys thoughts on that, like, because the Democrats promise this is not political. Meanwhile, they are literally putting the trial a day before Super Tuesday.
I've never seen the system move this quickly. These are cases. Are these cases that just started and they're just a few months later they're going to be starting?
Yeah, I remember some
massive cases. That's
I remember some liberal
unusual.
smarty pants guy on the MSNBC was talking about one like a long time ago. He's like, actually, with these federal cases, all this stuff, it actually takes a very, very long time. A lot of these cases might take like a year and a half to 2 years. Like, and I'm like, yeah, CJ, what happened to that? Like, it went from,
I'm like,
you know what I'm saying, it take a
hell?
long time for these cases to go. Now they get it done right before the election, and people think this is not political. What?
I don't
Well, like I said before, the Democrats want to make this a super fast rush, but when you rush things, you skip over steps, you forget things. And the thing is, this also has the potential of blowing up in the Democrats' face because if they're in such a rush to really interfere and mess around with this election, there's a very good chance that they didn't cross their I's or dot their T's. They're going to screw up. I'm expecting liberal Democrats to screw up. They're just assuming that people's emotions or Trump running is what's going to help them win hearts and minds. This is not going to help them at all. This will blow up in their face. Watch. We're going to be talking about this and how this will eventually also boost up Trump's numbers as well.
I think that is what you said, Nick. I think they're trying to induce some fashion on the right to do something. This is the only explanation for this.
It won't work.
Just ridiculous sort of things that they're doing here. That's clearly political. Anybody can see it. You're seeing people who are apolitical all over TikTok talk about this, and not any political terms. They're just saying, like the black lady with the bonnet. She was just saying, like, this is so ridiculous. Like, she didn't say any like political terms. Just talking about how the system is trying to crush him because of something. But go ahead, Nick or Russell.
To CJ's point, for those who didn't hear it, I said it before. One of the goals, because the establishment, they work in ways where they benefit in multiple ways. One of the goals of doing the Trump prosecutions and going after their chief political rival, something that would start regime change if Nicholas Maduro or someone in the global south did that right. One of the reasons why they do this is because they want nothing more than another January 6th. They want, like, they see this new shooting now. I saw an MSNBC segment where they talking about taking guns from people immediately, increasing police state budgets. So yeah, they doing it because they want to pick Trump supporters off, and they do something crazy. They would use that as an excuse to make another domestic terrorism bill, increase police states under the guise of going after white supremacy, and then they would use that to go after the left and other socialist or working class movements. That's my theory. That's what we continue to see. And think about this. Why would they do this right before Super Tuesday? Because it's a middle of an election where most people are paying attention and people are most invested. CJ, Russell, Kid, when are people the most invested? Like, literally the most invested in the outcome.
Yeah.
Right before Super
Tuesday. Right before Super Tuesday.
Yeah, the day of.
So they want someone to snap and do something crazy before the trial, and all of a sudden they got the political will and capital to increase the police state as they want to. That's why I clearly believe it's happening, and something I see a lot of people not calling out because they don't view politics through the lens of class and state violence. That's clearly the goal of the liberal establishment. And many of the Trump supporters who feel like they find establishment, they will happily cheer that on because they love cops in the police state too. But I think I think Russell.
Yeah, you notice that everything the Democrats tell us we have to elect them to avoid because the Republicans are going to do it are the things they end up doing. You have to vote for us because the Republicans are going to cut public benefits. They wind up cutting welfare. They wind up cutting public benefits. You have to stop the Republicans because they're going to create a really draconian justice system that abuses black and brown people. They create that justice system. They say you have to vote for Republicans because they're going to undermine our electoral system. They'll jail their political opponents. Well, the Republicans chanted about it. You actually did it. You're actually, it's always like that. They say shit, and then you do that shit. You actually do that shit. So what do you think? And there's another dimension of it that they never seem to think about. Okay, so now you're jailing your political opponent, or trying to. What the fuck do you think's going to happen to you when they come into power?
Exactly.
Like they're coming for you. They're coming for all of you. Lock her up is going to become real because you know you're all guilty of crimes. Like if you're going to play like this, like, hey, you're guilty of stuff, so we're going to lock you up. Those old rules of, hey, man, we're just not going to do it because we do it to you. You could do it to us. You threw it out the window, man. What do you think's going to happen when the Republicans come back into power, man? You're all going to jail.
Said it.
A cycle of stupidity.
In a recent speech, said that once he's president, he going after the Clintons. He going after all these motherfuckers. Now, once again, my skeptical side is I don't believe him because he said that last time. But Trump, the message is that Trump is going after these people now. And then I remember the reaction from blue check liberals and MSNBC, CNN. They said, "See, this is Trump calling for more violence and grievance politics." I'm like, fam, he's saying this. He said he's going to do the same thing that you guys are actively doing. He said he's going to do it back. So that's a great point, Russell. CJ, we can move on to the next segment. I'll pass to you.
Yeah, we're just going to read through these. You can point out any of your favorites on this list, but this was put out by Caitlin Johnstone, that is, and it's a hit, actually. Her tweet that went viral, I think it's at 8,000 likes right now when she put this out. So let's read through some of them. I know we'll probably discuss a few of them. Tell me what your thoughts is. Let me know where you want to stop. Let's blow it up. And now you can listen to it, but we're gonna read it for ourselves, so we can go at our own pace. So here goes one. Now, these are 30, let me read it, 30 signs you might be an empire simp. Now, while we're answering these questions, everybody here on the panel, think of who does this apply to? Does it apply to the squad? Does it apply to AOC, Bernie Sanders? Does it apply to the Bernie Sanders media industrial complex, the TYTs, the majority reports, the rational nationals, humanist reports, and so on? When we go through this list, let us know if it rings a bell for anybody else. 1, you get triggered whenever anyone highlights the well-documented Western provocation that paved the way to the war in Ukraine. I think that's a good one to have bidding.
Yeah,
you're doing Putin's bidding if you report on facts and things that the Western media used to talk about. You report on a democratically elected government being cool with the help of the CIA. How dare you report facts because you're doing the bidding of Putin? And this is what a lot of people in the media point out as well, that they don't want to talk about neo-Nazis in Ukraine. They want to talk about the ethnic cleansing that the fascist Ukrainian government was doing to their people, because if they bring up facts, you're considered a Putin puppet. If you're an empire simp, as this article is laying out, you are post-facts. It's all about your agenda. But anyway, let's move on. I'll keep my analysis short for each one. We got a lot to go through. Go ahead, CJ.
Two, you think Putin invaded Ukraine solely because he is evil and hates freedom, and the U.S. is pouring weapons into the nation because it loves Ukrainians and wants to protect their freedom and democracy. That's essentially what does.
That's the Matt Duss version of foreign policy. That's the Marianne Williamson version of foreign policy, where the United States launched the war on terror. They had Operation Condor that killed and tortured thousands of socialists and workers. in South America. Yeah, we lied about every war. We committed a genocide in Korea, killed innocent peasants in Vietnam. But I promise you, this time we're the right side. I promise you, we're the good guys this time. I know that we lied
She said
before.
that in many interviews too. Marianne Williamson actually says something like this in many interviews when she's like, she was in a Jimmy interview. She was like, you don't believe that the Ukrainians are fighting their hearts out. You don't believe they're fighting to, put everything they have in them to fight. Like, she's one of them that actually believes some of these sort of State Department talking points about these wars, because it's always wrapped around like democracy and bringing democracy,
Number 3 is the entirety of the TYT and breaking points left. By the way.
Go ahead and read it, Nick, if you want to. Go ahead.
Oh God.
No, I spoiled it a little bit, so I'll read it. But this is the entirety of the Bernie Sanders left. You're more interested in Trump's mugshot than the Western-backed atrocities in Yemen or starvation sanctions on Syria.
That is them.
Yeah,
that's the NATO left.
They don't tell them those things. I'm like the guy who left the cult. I can tell you what it looks like from inside the cult. These things are not really discussed. And if they do get into them, they frame it like if you're a mature, informed person, you understand that it's a complicated world with no good solutions. And these people are all doing the best that they can. You ever notice when you talk to a lib, they talk like they're fucking insiders. They talk like they just met with Deep Throat in a parking garage. Well, listen, this is what's really going on, right? Because that's the siren song of that media. That's the attraction. It talks in that tone like if you accept these narratives, you're politically sophisticated. So if they address this at all, which they usually won't, it's in that way, right? It's in that very Atlantic Council way. Well,
that's how Emma speaks on the Majority Report.
That's how
she
Sam
speaks
Cedar
that way
speaks.
a lot on the Majority Report. Yes, that's a great point, Russell. Now, number 4, you can listen to Tony Blinken talk without wanting to throw a trash at his head.
Hey, and CJ, you notice when we do segments about Anthony Blinken, those are the hardest segments to get through without pausing.
Yeah, they are.
You guys notice. Because we explained it last time, I think when he was on Meet the Press, where Chuck Todd was blown away with how much this motherfucker was lying. And that's a statement. Look it up on YouTube. It's called Chuck Todd Accidentally Destroys Anthony Blinken, because he asked basic questions about Taiwan and China, and even Chuck Todd was like, "What are you talking about here?" And we had to stop the video because every single sentence that Anthony Blinken said was a coordinated lie. And I'm like, yeah, I can let it keep playing, but every sentence is like deserves an analysis on its own. That's why that's a funny line to sum it up. But let's continue.
Anyone want to take number 5 and read, and number 6?
I got you. Hold on. Wait, gotta sound like a liberal. You understand that the last time there was a credible foreign military threat near the U.S. border, the U.S. responded so aggressively that it almost ended the world, yet you demand that Russia and China accept U.S. military threats on their borders.
That's all of Ukraine. That's all of the Ukraine flag wearing people. I mean, waving people all over Twitter. That's them.
That's all of them, and they're asking us for billions of dollars. Meanwhile, Maui, Hawaii, hey guys, you get $700. Don't spend it all in one spot. Oh, sorry, your homes got burnt to a cinder. Jeez Louise. Number 6, you think that the U.S. is filling Australia with war machinery because it loves Australians and wants to protect them from China.
Now that I think about it, I explained before the NATO left and the pro-war imperialist left relies on ignorance as a shield.
Yes.
When asked about Ukraine, Bernie would say, I don't know anything about Ukraine, even though I vote on it. I don't know anything about that shit. So I want to see a Biden endorsing progressive, which is essentially all of them, asked about Biden's decision to send nuclear submarines to Australia. How many of them would say, I don't know about that? And if they do know about it, what is your thought about it? Do you think he's doing it because he cares about the Australian people? Do you have a criticism of that or not? There's something they don't want to talk about because they are deeply unserious in the empire Simp, as Caitlin points out. But let's continue.
Let's see. Okay, I got this one. You believe the world's most destructive military force is encircling its number one geopolitical rival with war machinery as a defensive measure.
The United States is in the South China Sea as a defensive maneuver. That's what people believe. I'm gonna cover this later this week, where people are like, "We gotta address the Chinese aggression in the South China Sea." The fuck we doing over there? Anyway, let's go ahead, Russ.
No, it's Russell.
Well, that really shows you how. And her next few tweets, and a lot of these, or a lot of things on this list, are about propaganda. Yeah, look at how propagandized you have to be, and Americans are so brainwashed. They never think about how crazy that is to absorb a narrative like that, that on the other side of the world, off the shore of another nation, they're being aggressive when they assert themselves in that area. Whereas everybody knows what we would do if you had, I mean, going back to Ukraine, can you imagine what we would do if another country were building up troops in Central America? Forget about it, man. The 82nd Airborne would be there in 5 seconds. 5 seconds. So anyway, you live in the most propagandized population on Earth and make jokes about North Korean propaganda.
You always hear this because when you post this, Nick, I think one of the first time or a couple of times you posted most propagandized, you probably still get it. The first thing they say, "Have you ever heard of North Korea?" That's I
don't get it as much anymore. Now
anymore.
I want them people that hit people with repetition. I'm gonna fucking hammer this down. I'll give so many examples throughout the course of my time on Twitter and time on YouTube. Now people are like, yeah, it's fact. We are the most propagandized country in the world.
Yeah.
North Korean propaganda and the propaganda for China, Russia, or any other country is child's play, fam, compared to ours.
You know,
child's play.
We
live in a country that imprisons 1/4 of the world's prison population, but people believe we're the land of the free. The United States propaganda
whenever.
I'll back right to you, Russell. But the United States propaganda is so extreme, people forget that there was an entire international community that was repeating George Bush's lie on the war on terror, the Western world society. And many people believe that the West was fighting the war on terror out of good graces. So our propaganda is so good, we trick other countries. Like, you got people in the UK and shit repeating our propaganda. We all know, and if you ask people in China, and I had the great professors at Bet Beat Media who live in China, by the way. So people say, Nick, you talk about China, but you know anyone who live in China? Yes, quite a few, actually. And I talked to them about what it's like to live in China. And they say you get a lot of informative news in China because people understand that the news is coming from the state perspective. People watched Rachel Maddow, Chris Hayes, and the pro-war propagandists, and they think they're getting real objective news. The propaganda in this country completely destroys the propaganda of other countries. North Korea or anyone else don't hold a candle. Now, I will spare you guys because I need to do a panel. I can talk about North Korea for hours. So I'm going to just sum it up real quick. Everything you talk about North Korea is a lie. It is an absolute lie by the CIA. And then when people will go to North Korea and debunk the lies, you want to know what the West say? That the West say North Korea sets up fake fucking cities. How is that logistically possible for people to do that? I'm not saying North Korea is great. I am saying that everything you heard about them is fake. Now you have to understand, millions of people, millions of Koreans were slaughtered by the Western Empire. The Western Empire committed a genocide and economically starved the North Korean people. There are CIA operatives and Western-backed puppets that waged information campaign wars in Korea that helped led to a genocide of their people that they are still recovering to this day. So you guys wondering why North Korea controls the flow of information, considering what they've been through? Considering they got intelligent operations, they're trying to undermine their government? What they do is very mild, all considering. When you are under war, when you're under siege by the Western imperial regime, whether you like it or not, it's under your best interest and your people's best interest to control the flow of information because the West is trying to destroy you and your nation. But I spare you guys because that's a long conversation.
No, that was needed to add that part in there because that is that for North Korea, that is almost like an asterisk when we were talking about how the United States propaganda war, like them and Putin, those are the two like top, like they're just going ridiculously over the top. But number 9, you live in the most propagandized population on earth and spend your time fretting about Russian propaganda, similar to number 8 with North Korea. Number 10, you think the title of most murderous and tyrannical regimes on earth belong to any government besides Washington.
People, and to that point, just real quick, I keep it moving. But to that point, people think that Vladimir Putin has a higher kill count than Jim Crow Joe. People think that Vladimir Putin has a higher kill count than Nancy Pelosi.
It's not even close.
How about Barack Obama? That's the world heavyweight champion right there.
Sorry,
you said Obama. You said Obama is what?
Obama's a world heavyweight champion. I mean, does Putin have a higher kill count than Obama? I don't think so.
Barack Obama even famously said, "I'm very good at killing folks."
Yeah,
he was really good at killing folks. Barack Obama made Putin look soft, fam. And then Hillary Clinton saw Barack Obama's foreign policy and said she's going to have a more muscular version of that because Hillary Clinton thought Barack Obama was a pussy. So anyway, let's continue.
Man. Okay. Turns out I'm good at killing folks.
Let me be clear. Russ, there's only one Obama impersonator here. And that's me. Not even up for a vote. Obama out.
Let's
we're going to have to break out our banjos.
Oh,
do a little dueling Obama.
Number 11, you live under the most murderous and tyrannical power structure on earth, yet you spend your time shrekking about tyranny in Asian countries. You know how they do that all the time. Number 12, you want to see Vladimir Putin. And on Twitter, on YouTube, when I posted these, this is the one that got the most likes, like 500. Like this section right here, this was the last one on it, but it says, number 12, you want to see Vladimir Putin try for war crimes before George Bush. I think that's a good one.
If that's true for the entire Democratic Party at this point. But imagine how broken your brain has to be. And that's the definition of Putin derangement syndrome, if that applies to you. But let's continue, CJ.
Number 13, you believe Western interventionism has ever had anything to do with spreading freedom and democracy or protecting humanitarian interests. Number 14, you find protests in places like Iran, Venezuela, or Cuba much more interesting than places like France, Haiti, and Chile.
Now, to that point, how many of the TYT, Cal, Crystal, Bernie Media Industrial Complex did stories about the NATO protests, the protests against Emmanuel Macron, compared to, I'll be careful here, but with the CIA fronted Iranian protests, I'll say that, and the Juan Guaido CIA fronted protests in Venezuela, which was not supported by the people. But so that's a great point. But anyway, let's continue.
Let's read a few more, and I think maybe we can start to. I don't know if we'll see how it goes. So 15, you unironically call NATO a defensive alliance. 16, you rend your garments about China preparing to seize control of Taiwan, but military force without ever acknowledging that the U.S. empire is preparing to do the same exact thing. She's just destroying them. And she does it with humor, is what I like about Caitlyn. Or maybe she's not trying to be funny, but it's
she's funny. Caitlyn has the humor where, and she's consistently funny. And you see with the statements here, they're funny because she's stating how absurd the ideology of neocons and neoliberals are, just by stating it in plain language. Just by stating what they believe in plain language is funny. Like, she says that you unironically believe NATO is a defensive alliance. Just that's how crazy their ideology is. Just saying what they believe is enough, right? Meanwhile, let's continue.
I think not even getting this far, just getting to number 16, I think we've clearly wiped out of all of the Bernie and Sanders media industrial complex. Like, one of these apply, multiple of these apply to them. We've wiped out all elected progressives, like these apply to them. But let's continue. Number 17, you have ever believed for even 1 second that the U.S. government gives a fuck about Muslims in China. 18, you oppose guns except when they're being used to kill foreigners overseas. 19, you claim you oppose the misdeeds of all governments equally, but find yourself spending most of your time yelling at people who criticize U.S. foreign policy online. And then 20, I think, does she mean never or ever? You've ever accused anyone who...
She's saying that if you ever did this.
Oh, you've ever accused anyone who criticized U.S. foreign policy of secretly working for Russia or China. Everybody does that.
All the time. You want to know who did that? Bernie Sanders. Remember when?
Oh yeah, he did that to Nick.
With Nick Brana.
Yeah.
Nick Brana. He said, how much was Russia paying you? Like, I
So Bernie
worked.
Sanders,
Did he say that?
Yeah, he
Did he
said
say
that to
that?
Nick Brana.
Yeah,
Yes,
he
he did. This was at the. This was like 2 months after Jose Vega confronted AOC at that town hall, and then other people started doing that too. And then Nick Brana confronted Bernie, and Bernie's like, "Who's paying you? Is it Russia? Is it Russia paying you?"
The Russia shit is truly the most bizarre spectacle of the political age to me, because the McCarthy era is like a foundational origin story for the left, and it has been since the 50s. The idea of people who think, even if they're not left, who think of themselves as left, unironically accusing people of being Russian and Russian stooges for having a difference of opinion. These are the same people who were packing the movie theaters to see Good Night and Good Luck in the Bush years. And you don't see that you've become McCarthy era Republicans, especially a guy like Bernie, who's a lifelong socialist. He should be more conscious of the history of red baiting and how dangerous that is than anybody. I didn't even know that until you just told me. That's amazing. That's amazing.
That's why we're the most propagandized country in the world, Russell, because they do it and they don't even realize it. They think they're being progressives, advocating for the good guy, the U.S. empire. 21, RFK is guilty of this.
You can read the next couple of ones.
You ever accuse someone who criticizes Israel of being an anti-Semite?
Wow. Yeah, that wipes him out.
Isn't that what he said to Roger Waters or something like that? Where he threw her under the bus for being he said like somewhat something like this. He said, "Well, I understand that you can have criticism of Israel, but if you don't match your criticism with other countries in the Middle East, that get you closer to anti-Semite territory."
Yeah,
that's the language.
I heard something like that. I heard something like that.
It's something very similar. That's the very similar talking point that RFK Jr. has used. So I'm just calling him out here because he's falling for the Israeli talking point here.
So all we have left is probably like Cornel West still standing. Maybe not even him if you look at some of his past views on empire, but not empire, but the Biden administration and Democratic Party. But 22, you think being anti-war means putting a Ukraine flag in your profile? Is that okay? Marianne Williamson is gone. She's gone now.
And how many of these people? How many of these people gonna put a flag of Niger in their bio?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or Haiti,
or Yemen.
Yep, I predict zero. I predict zero.
23, you think the troops have ever fought for your freedom at any time since you've been alive? That is spot on. Ain't no war been over no freedom at all. No, in our lifetime. I wouldn't say our. Well, let me just leave it there. In the last couple of years, 20 years or so. You think the invasion of Iraq had anything to do with liberating the Iraqi people?
Oh boy.
Now I think other than the most ranked neocons, like I think a lot of people over like the Bill Crystals, they believe that, right? But think about it like this. Many people they see through the Iraq war now, right? But there are many people that believe the Ukraine war is about liberating the Ukrainian people. So it's just, even though they've seen past the Iraq war, they fall for the same thing when the new war come up.
How is that? 25. You think the destruction of Libya had anything to do with protecting Libyans?
Oh boy, that's devastating.
26. You think the West arming Al Qaeda in Syria had anything to do with advancing the interests of Syrians? And we're rounding down to the last few ones. 27. You think U.S. escalation against Russia and China has anything to do with national security? That's kind of the catchphrase, the catch-all. When they want to do anything, they just say national security or U.S. interests. 28, you think the Department of Defense has anything to do with defense? That definitely encompasses a lot of people. Now, here's the last two. You think it's okay for the U.S. to keep waging war, destroying nations, starving civilian populations with economic sanctions, instigating proxy wars, arming neo-Nazis and violent jihadists, staging coups and persecuting journalists, because if it doesn't do those things, the world might be taken over by evil tyrants. Wow.
That's a liberal worldview.
Right. And then 30, you were bothered by any item on this list.
Well, that's the Rachel Maddow, latte sipping, vote blue no matter who, TYT, Sam Cedar supporting the liberals who are watching this, who are going through that. You know,
me personally, I'm shaking. Me personally, I'm literally shaking. I'm in shambles. How dare Caitlin accuse the Ukrainian people of being Nazis? How could she be so insensitive? They have a Jewish president.
Yeah,
a Jewish
they love
president,
to bring that up. They love to bring that up as if that means anything. Obviously, it doesn't. So I think we've all given our. I think we've all kind of given our last thoughts, but let's run around the table again just in case you want to insert anything holistically, maybe not about an individual one. Any comments? I'll go around, going once, going twice.
Well, that entire list pretty much, and this is why we all have to go after it very hard. The linchpin of all this is media brainwashing, because if you really look at the divide between people who that list applies to and people who don't, it really comes down to who still believes the media is telling you the truth. Yep. Who still buys that narrative? Like, if you want to really break people out of those beliefs, you've got to convince them that the media is not telling them the truth, which at this point, honestly, if you haven't figured that out by now, you might be a lost cause, but that's really what you have to go at. As long as they believe the media, it's hopeless. It's hopeless. Whatever you convince them of at some, dinner or over drinks, they're going to get brainwashed out of it the next day if they're still believing that shit.
Yeah, we have some education to do, because a lot of people inherently distrust the media, but then there are times they turn their brain off, where they just like, oh, well, I guess they just reported the news, and they're so good at the propaganda. They're doing the propaganda when it seems like they're reporting the news. That's why people fell for the Ukraine war at first, but after the narrative war, after many people spoke out against it, after people opened their mind to another potential, that's when they started turning against the war. That's why most Americans are against it now. But there's this phenomenon, there's this war happening where people will distrust the media, but they will still listen to the media narratives on a few things.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why I often challenge right-wing populists and other people, because they'll say, oh, I don't believe anything the media say. I don't believe anything the CIA said. But they'll believe anything this media says or anything the CIA said about socialism. I don't trust the media, but everything the media says about socialism is true for some reason. So I challenge you. So you see through you guys see what I'm talking about? That's an instance where people don't trust the media, except on some things for some reason. Like once I decided that I'm going to toss everything that the empire taught me, that brainwashed me, and I decolonized my mind, that's what opened me up to look into socialism, communism, because I'm like, I don't know that much about it, but they said it was bad. Apparently, these motherfuckers lie about everything, right? But anyway, I spare you guys. Any other thoughts, kid? Anyone else have anything on that?
The propaganda runs deep within the American psyche. They've done a phenomenal job in brainwashing a lot of people. I think some people are waking up to some of the propaganda. But this is where our job comes in. But our job is exponentially harder because we have the jackboot of YouTube censorship and so much more preventing us from getting our voices out there. Look, ideally, all of our channels, were this a true meritocracy on social media, we should really be at 1 million subscribers right now, all of us collectively. But that's not the case, and we have to work hard, double time, and put quadruple our efforts into putting out thought-provoking content and waking people up to the fact that we are in a propagandized media state that only caters to Wall Street and big banks. And the sooner we start organizing ourselves and again getting our message out there, the closer we can to getting a real movement out there. But it's just, I have to say, it's pretty impressive just how deep the propaganda runs amongst all Americans. And if we don't do something about it now, it's going to be irreversible sometime in the near future.
So we can move on to the next.
All right. Yeah, we can go to the next one. All right, I'll pass it to you, Nick, unless you wanted to read some super chats and then go, or you can start now. It's up to you. I don't have a preference.
Let's see. What's the chat?
We got...
Thank you for $5. This is a friend. I recognize their profile picture, so big shout out to them. What was the channel Nick mentioned with people living in China? Beat Media. Yeah, I used to do the International Leftist Coalition show with them. They are professors who live in China. So I heard firsthand from them how everything they tell you about China, just like everything they tell you about the DPRK. And I'm not saying these countries are perfect. There's no reason to believe that North Korea is perfect. I'm just telling you the narrative that you was fed was bullshit. Straight up. So that was Beat Media. Big shout out to them. I'm gonna have them on.
I will say we know now they have better sunscreen.
Thanks, AOC. Thank you.
Yes, because she wants that sunscreen. We need help from the people of Maui. You get sunscreen.
If you guys are number one most propagandized, we Aussies have got to be number two. The UK is a strong number two, number three. I'll let the Aussies and the UK and the people in the UK fight over it. But people who push back at me in an intellectual way, they'll say, Nick, what about the UK? I'm like, that's a great suggestion. Still child's play compared to the United States. Yeah. Because as someone who witnessed the war on terror, who watches and studies Zionist propaganda, the Ukraine war propaganda, the BBC in the UK, they just kind of copy what the West do. They kind of copy what the United States do. I should say.
That's it.
So I don't know. I think that's a legitimate pushback when people do say, "What about the UK?" But I think the UK is still child's play compared to the United States.
Because imitation can never overtake the actual item. It's always an imitation. You can never be more than. But go ahead with the next. It says you're right, Russell. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Nick. No, go ahead. I was just reading the comment. The comment.
The UK smeared Jeremy Corbyn as an anti-Semite because of his stance on Israel, because the UK imits the United States on that position. So that's my point. So yeah, the UK is bad, but they just fall in the direction of their new daddy, the United States. I think for the 199, Janice, you're right, Russell. I voted Nader in 2000.
Was it you that night? Was it you, Janice?
Well, Trump pardoned Kodak, so I expected this. Thank for the $2.
That's right,
American
he did.
Topsy.
I forgot he did that.
We have another one from Hugh G. Recton. Make sure I'm not reading these 2 times here. Thank for 999. Love this panel. Let's get it, fam. Just sent Jimmy a super chat that Pasta needs to drop RFK because he still has not debated Max. That's a big stain on RFK's integrity. one of many. He's like, imagine saying that you are willing to have a conversation with someone in front of thousands. It was like 15,000 plus people
Yeah.
who just watched you lie. But people don't understand how that harms your credit. That harms your credibility. We can't have liars as leaders of our movements.
Plus, you know, if you have to bring up the comparison of Hotez, how he refused to debate our here and have Joe Rogan moderate. I mean, like, come on, dude. You know, you said you wanted to debate him. Well, look, Max Blumenthal is probably the person you want to talk to. Well, then have that conversation. Don't be afraid. Otherwise,
because he knew he would smoke Hotez, and he knew Max was going to smoke him.
Yeah, what a coward. He has only done softballs lately, and I've noticed that. Savvy Sabs has done a great job calling this out. He is unserious, and unlike the shit libs, I think it's a good strategy on Fox News and right-wing media, but it does become suspicious when you dodge left-wing media and you only do right-wing media, and there's never any conflict. Like, I have no problems doing right-wing media, going on Fox News, but if I do, eventually there's going to be a conflict. This motherfucker goes on right-wing media and kisses their ass, tells them everything they want to hear, afraid of confrontation. You guys want this guy to be your leader? I mean, at least Bernie, who I'm deeply impressed with, at least he would start conflict, right? He would go on Fox News and talk about democratic socialism. RFK goes on right-wing shows and tells them anything they want to hear, and people think that's brave. It's okay to have an interview, even 2 or 3, where you're friendly and you get along with people, right? Not every interview has to be hostile, but when every single one is the same friendly bullshit, that's when I start to raise my eyebrow, especially when you dodge hard conversations, right? But anyway, what I'll leave off here. I think. Let me know when we
read that one. We read that one.
Okay, so I think
we read
caught
that
up. Any other ones we'll read afterwards.
Yeah, we got one new one, so we know. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
So this is the preface to the Bernie story, the Bernie Dr. Cornel West story, because it's great to see how things changed. Because yesterday the timeline was filled with people dragging this spineless sellout cuck, Bernie Sanders. And I said many times before, there needs to be way more anger at Bernie Sanders and the Justice Democrat left, progressive quote unquote left. They really think that they was going to pull this heist without any retribution, without any consequence. That you're gonna just take money from working class people, promise them political revolution, and then you're gonna make a political pivot without there being any anger at the situation. Now the professional managerial class, they peddle in toxic positivity, so they've been trying their best to squell this anger. They've been unsuccessful. Bam. There've been many people who've been trying to apologize for Bernie. We've been calling these people out for at least 2 years since the beginning of RBN. CJ, you felt it. Kit from Harlan's Middle, you felt it. Russell,
I've seen it, man.
These progressives who was resistant, like, come on, why you being mean to Bernie, man? CJ, you know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm talking about. We lost so many people who got upset at this. The Bernie Sanders coat. But there need to be a reckoning. That's the word I was looking for earlier. They thought there wasn't going to be a political reckoning for them taking hundreds of millions of dollars of working class people money and openly sell them out. And my last I'll say on this, if AOC and Bernie Sanders fought against the Ukraine war funding and was unsuccessful, if they fought for Medicare for all and was unsuccessful, will we have our knives to their throat? No. We'd be like, all right, thanks for fighting for us. Let's go back to the and huddle up and try again. That is not what they're doing. They are unapologetic Democratic Party propagandists. So this is the video I shot today. Then my last thing I'm gonna say, I'll pass to the panel because this video shortly sums it up, and then I can pull up the article version of this as well. Because it's actually a very short and not a long story. It's essentially Bernie sounding like a typical MSNBC Democrat. But I'll play the video. I'm gonna give you guys a reaction because this is my quick summary of this.
Bernie Sanders pulled one of the biggest political con jobs of the modern era. Bernie Sanders took hundreds of millions of dollars from ordinary, desperate people and promised a political revolution. Now he's nothing more than an ordinary pro-war Democrat. Bernie Sanders had potential to be a leader of a movement, but instead he reduced himself into being a weaselly, spineless, little PR puppet cup of the Democrat in light of a surging third-party potential candidacy of Dr. Cornel West, Bernie's old friend. Bernie Sanders is throwing cold water and telling people to support the Democratic Party. According to Bernie Sanders, this is once again the most important election of our lifetime. According to Bernie Sanders, if Trump wins, it will be the end of our democracy.
Oh,
Bernie
no.
Sanders sounds no different than the average Morning Joe, Rachel Maddow, MSNBC shitlib at this point. Bernie, did you forget that you ran against Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and they rigged both primaries against you? He now propping up the system that is rigged against us? What a fucking coward. The job of Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the squad is to shift what it means to be a socialist to the right and create a weak, ineffective, spineless left-wing movement.
Now that last sentence
nice
is
job,
why
man.
and if you guys wonder why I'm mad,
Damn good.
remember when we did our reaction to Tom Hartman, CJ? And like Tom Hartman and Bernie are purposely creating weak, beta, left-wing political discourse and direction. We can't do anything. We got to support Brian. They are purposely making you guys know the stereotype of the weak soy boy leftist. That's obviously not true when you look at motherfuckers like me in Rome, right? But people like Bernie
that's
Sanders,
why you got to be out there, man, because a lot of them do make that impression, and it's very bad for the movement.
Yes, I've seen those
I passed to the
activists.
panel. My point being, people like Tom Hartman and Bernie Sanders make that trope true, and their job is to cultivate a weak left movement. But sorry, guys, I want you guys to chime in. I have a lot to say.
Look, I've seen firsthand of or at least at their zenith, the activists and organizers that were saying we have to be pragmatic and work with the Democrats. We have to listen to Bernie and AOC. And I saw those soy boys and soy girls too, who were constantly saying that they knew better, speaking like they're insiders, saying that this was a way to go. Look, the thing is, when we pushed back at them, when we called them out, like, hey, how come you're only protesting against Trump Tower here in Chicago? They would never have an excuse of why they would not protest against Democratic lawmakers. And what have I noticed? That movement's falling apart because people that were following them were becoming disenfranchised. Everybody saw it. They were becoming disillusioned. They were no longer really getting anything worthwhile of going to these meetings or going to these protests. And Bernie Sanders thinks he could sing that same song and all of us will fall in line. That's not going to work, Bernie. You had a great movement in 2016. It was lackluster in 2020. And here comes the 2024 Bernie Sanders saying, we got to support Joe Biden. How? When his administration has been riddled with corruption and inept leadership. At this point, Bernie Sanders and everything that he stood for should be ridiculed. Everybody should see him for the con man that he is and how successful he was at basically, emptying out people's wallets. Now, maybe there was a point where Bernie cared about what his message was, but now he's just going through the numbers. He's too old to care, and he thinks he could get everybody in line. He had his moment. It's over now. It's gone. It's done. He made himself irrelevant.
Yeah, man. Did you folks? Because I was donating to him in 2020. I was donating to him. I didn't do any work for him, but it wasn't because of him at that point. At that point, it was more because I had learned the system is rigged and there's no way he could win. But I'll just give him money on general principles. But then when he just bent over for Biden, and then I don't know if any of you were donors where you would have gotten this email. And then another email came out about giving this motherfucker money after he had dropped out of the race to keep his revolution going. That was really when I turned on him.
He has a book now.
This motherfucker.
He has a book now talking about how his visions of a political revolution.
Yeah.
Buy it, guys. He needs a new house. Like, And I still remember
Like,
my
why
tweet,
you
okay,
sending
so
me
many-
an email for money? You're not even running anymore.
Well, because Bernie needs that for his little what was it, his super PAC that his wife and stepson are running that have done nothing.
Right.
No,
and you
it's-
and you tell me she didn't pull any shit at that fucking college. All right? Can we fucking be honest about that at this point? I thought that then, but I didn't blame him. I was like, well, he's covering for his family. I can't really blame him. You know, kind of blamed her. But yeah, I always thought she probably pulled shit in that college. I never thought she was innocent.
Listen to this.
It's true.
Listen to this, and we got to push back against this coordinated effort to turn the left into weak, beta, cowardly, surrendering motherfuckers like Bernie Sanders, who spreads toxic positivity. This is a term we talk about in RBN all the time. Bernie's here to kill revolutionary energy and the anger that is needed to spark a potential revolution and spark people towards action. Bernie is here to tell you, oh, things are okay. No, things are okay. No, we're making progress. Look, guys, we are organized. We are have a he's guilty of spreading this toxic positivity that is meant to nullify and pacify the left. Listen to this garbage. This is a not a long article. So this is what Dr. Cornel West said that made Bernie Sanders get back at third-party president candidate. Dr. Cornel West said they don't really want to tell the full truth. Biden has created the best economy that we can get. Is this the bet that we can get? You don't tell that lie to people just for Biden to win. So what he's saying is, people saying that Bidenomics and the Biden economy is good, gaslighting the working class on behalf of the Democratic Party. He calling those people out here. So Bernie has to acknowledge this, or this interviewer brings it up to Bernie, because the person who Dr. Cornel West is talking about, whether he calls names or not, is Bernie Sanders. The people like Bernie Sanders pretend we live in this great economy. So now listen to this weak rhetoric. And I want to ask you guys this question. Who does this rhetoric serve? Who does this rhetoric that Bernie Sanders is about to perpetuate, who does it serve? And while Sanders said he agrees, it is certainly not the best economy the U.S. could create. He called on progressives to coalesce around Biden.
No, not going to happen. No bueno. I think
It's so sad. Sad.
I think who this message is out for is for people. Again, Bernie, I think, still carries like this ridiculous mindset that he's guilty for what happened in 2016, that he couldn't get enough people to support Hill Dog. And of course, Bernie wants to do everything he can to signal to the Democrats that he's their friend, that he wants their support, or he's trying to show them that he's not that troublemaker. He doesn't want to be remembered as Ralph Nader, but this message who it's probably for people who are triggered by Jill Stein or third parties. And he's trying to say, and I guess for them to use that. See, look, your hero Bernie is saying vote blue no matter who. Yep. So everybody stop complaining.
I'm glad that shit don't work no more, because they did that and that is what got people like Jordan Sheridan and Zach from Vanguard. They voted for Biden.
Oh,
because people said, and I heard this before, people like, well, Bernie Sanders say you should vote for Biden. Why aren't you voting for him? I'm like, nigga, he's not my daddy.
Yeah,
what you talking about?
No.
Meanwhile, people like Jordan Sheridan and Zach from the Vanguard, like, man, Bernie said, I gotta bite the bullet and vote for Biden.
No, you don't have to bite the bullet. You could think for yourself. Oh, what? Bernie Sanders says support Biden? No, I don't. I'm a grown ass adult. I look at Biden as being a hypocrite and a fraud and a liar, which is what he is. And now he's a senile old man. He's going to be He's 80 years old. If he serves his 4 years, he'll be the oldest serving president in U.S. history. He's already showing signs of dementia and Alzheimer's, okay? The man is moving slow. When Trump says he could barely move his feet 2 inches off of grass, yes, that body language is right there. It's evident. Biden isn't fit mentally, physically, emotionally. He's not there. So, Bernie, You saying this or anyone else saying, well, Bernie Sanders said it, well, then guess what? It tells me you're a puppet. I don't have to do what you say. Okay. I don't have to do what you say at all. None of us have to.
Well, is why people will tend to be consistent. You know, this is why you could say past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. A lot of us, myself included, still believed in him even after he did not run as an independent in 2016. I said, you know, man, he's saying we got to build grassroots like Goldwater. He didn't say Goldwater, but basically that was the gist of it. You know, the way that they built their movement after the defeat of Goldwater, that's what we're going to do, but from the left. When really, look, it was obvious. This motherfucker was talking revolution, and he had all the ingredients there. And when the moment of truth came, he didn't do it. That told us everything we needed to know, and that's what Jimmy Dore said at the time. And a lot of people attacked him there, still attacking him now for saying that. He said it then. He was really the only person I could think of who got out front of that and said, now he's just sheepdogging people into the Democratic Party. And that's exactly what it was. So anything he did after that was consistent with that decision. If he were actually going to do something, he would have done it then. He would have done it then. The fact that he didn't do it then told you everything you needed to know, which, of course, hindsight is 20/20.
And even when he was at the McCormick Place in 2017 for the People's Summit in Chicago, so many people were yelling in the audience, because I was there too. So many people were yelling in the audience saying, Bernie, you were cheated. Bernie, you were cheated. They stole it from you. And what did Bernie Sanders tell the people at the McCormick Place? No, you're wrong. Everybody stop. He was telling them to shut up.
Right. That's not revolutionary.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, so I'm gonna look at
freaking Donna Brazil got to the left of you. You know, revolutionary.
Oh God, I can't stand Donna Brazil. She was actually my graduation
but
speaker.
she came out and said the primary's rigged.
I know, but you didn't have her as your graduation speaker. She spoke for an
fan,
hour.
but...
She spoke for an hour and it ruined my graduation, man. That's
let's
a story
continue
for
here.
another day.
Listen to this weak garbage by Bernie Sanders. And it's not like Bernie Sanders came at Dr. Cornel West, outflanked him to his left, and explained using material analysis why he took the wrong strategy. No, Bernie Sanders just copy and pasted shit he saw in Morning Joe. So he's not even an independent thinker anymore. And that's what this next patches show you. Where I disagree with my good friend Cornel West is I think in these really difficult times where there is a real question whether democracy is going to remain in the United States of America. Literally is repeating the most shit-lived talking point you can think of. The workers cannot fight and fight for negotiation power. It cannot flex their own political power because this is the most important election of our lifetime and democracy is at stake. The same thing you will hear from a standard. That's a King Jeffries. Might as well be a King Jeffries here. That's how much Bernie Sanders is sold out. And Bernie, do I have to remind you, as I said in my video earlier, you're fighting to protect the democracy where they openly rigged 2 primaries against you. That's the democracy you're protecting? But this is the rest of the quote, and I'll pass it to the panel. I'll read that part again because this is Bernie is completely broken-brained. Hillary Clinton still with her. Biden, bro. 2 for a gun. Cowbell left at this point. Like Bernie Sanders full cowbell left. There is a real question whether democracy is going to remain in the United States of America. That's his big criticism of Dr. Cornel. Hey, Dr. Cornel West, you ever considered that you're threatening democracy by running for president? You know what we need to defend democracy? Democracy is when you're forced to vote for one candidate that's fighting against the material interest. That's what real democracy looks like.
Well, he's saying this in defense of a candidate who won't have a debate. And I'm not saying, look, to be real, yeah, they never allow a debate against an incumbent. It's not unique. But the question is, why is that normal? Why is that normal if it's a democracy? Why, if you're the incumbent, do you not have to debate anybody? Why do these parties have this kind of power? And Bernie knows certainly enough to know better than what he's saying. What democracy? You've been running around talking about how we're living in an oligarchy for fucking decades. And you're standing up there talking about how we have to defend democracy from Donald Trump. Frankly, and I've said this before, man, as somebody for whom freedom of speech is a very, very important issue to me, both in terms of what I do, political commentary, and just as an artist, as somebody coming out of the arts. You can't make a case to me that I need to vote for Democrats. My freedom of speech is more, on tech platforms, is more likely to be defended by Republicans. Not because of their principles necessarily, but because of their enemies. Because the people who run the tech platforms tend to align with Democrats. So they're more likely to rein them in. If they aligned with Republicans, they probably wouldn't give a shit about the censorship. I'm not saying they're great defenders of the First Amendment, but it's an enemy of my enemy thing.
If you are a voter and you want to vote to end civil asset forfeiture in the police state, who's your candidate?
You don't have one.
If you want to strengthen worker rights where Joe Biden has assaulted, Donald Trump has assaulted, Barack Obama has assaulted, who do you vote for if you're a labor activist, a serious labor activist?
None of them. You can't.
None of them.
In good conscience, no, you can't.
How is that a democracy, fam? How is it a democracy when the workers have no representation?
Well, let's just call ourselves we are. We're in an oligarchy. We're in an oligarchy that tries to put on the face of being a republic that says it practices democratic values. But no, we're an oligarchy. That's what we are. The great lie is that we have been training ourselves for generations of thinking that we have a democracy, a republic that represents, the people's will, when we don't. There's only a select few whose will is represented, and they have a bank account with 10 to 12 figures in them,
Yes, I'm gonna read this last part of this quote. This article's almost done. They got this quote from Bernie. They baited him with the question, and he gave him the quote. Because to be honest, when you look at this thing, this is definitely something that was set up by the journalists because they wanted to create Bernie versus Dr. Cornel West. But Bernie could have been smarter. Bernie could have avoided it, but he was not. And he gave the journalists exactly what he wanted, and honestly gave us exactly what we wanted because we've been telling you guys that Bernie and his sycophants are open sellouts. And CJ, what did I say weeks ago? The Dr. Cornel West candidacy is going to be very interesting because wait till we get more of these conversations on the record. Right now, we're far away from the election, so a lot of people have been asked about this. But as things get closer, as Dr. Cornel West continue to climb, every single progressive is going to be asked about Dr. Cornel West, and there's going to be more segments. There's going to be more exposés of who these people really are. This is Bernie Sanders throwing his good friend under the bus. Let me finish the quote. And then CJ, I got two quick things I can show, and then any receipts you have for this.
Yeah, I got a couple of receipts to get put into. Yeah,
go ahead, and I'll pass it to you after I get done here. I think we've got to bring the entire progressive community to defeat Trump or whoever the Republican nominee would be. Damn, look at that! Look at what he said here. So it's not even Trump the Rainbow syndrome. It's whoever the Republican nominee would be. And this is the question I asked Bernie Sanders supporters who advocated voting for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. My question was very simple. Where does it stop? Are we actually progressives who challenging the establishment? Or are we just Democrats? And I nailed every single person who I asked this question. So if they said that we have to vote for Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden because Trump is uniquely evil, what about Ron DeSantis? You know what I mean? What about the next? What about Josh Hawley? Josh Hawley is my senator. He is an insane psychopath. Josh Hawley is a psychopath. You think we should vote for Biden over Trump? But if it's Josh Hawley, then we should do something else. So what they're saying is we have to be Democrat for life, fam. You guys see how insane their rhetoric is? So when Pete Buttigieg goes against Josh Hawley in 10 years, they're going to be advocating for us to vote for Pete Buttigieg.
Yep.
No. So what Bernie Sanders is advocating for is a permanent stalling of our movement. We never build because we got to continue to support the neoliberal over any Republican. That's an unhinged position as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, I'll read the last part. I'm rambling now. I apologize. However, progressives still must demand that the Democratic Party, not just Biden, have the guts to take on corporate greed. Said the guy who votes are directly tied to record profits of the military-industrial complex, Raytheon and Boeing. Bernie, your votes led to that. You are endorsing the guy who approved of the Willow Project and led to massive oil profits because of the private contracts he was giving away, which is a direct violation of his campaign promise. Bernie is an insane Brooklyn dad level Democratic Party propagandist, fam. And it's unbelievable that I'm saying that. It's like if I look at this, if I saw this 3 years ago, I'll be shocked, fam. Like, this is unbelievable. But anyway, I won't pass it to you guys. I have a few quick things to add, but I won't get you guys in here because I've been rambling. Go ahead, kid.
I'll just keep it simple. Look, I know it hurts a lot of people seeing Bernie Sanders talk like this, or sell out like this, because I think a lot of people really believed in his message. I mean, how could we all forget what 2016 and to a lesser extent 2020 meant to a lot of people? But this should show you that you should not put all your eggs in one basket for a politician or a lawmaker. This should show all of you that you shouldn't be holding on to one single person. It's a child's notion into thinking that there's going to be one hero that will save it all. That's for comic books and fantasy. Wake up to reality. Real life is far more harsh and brutal, and it's more complicated, and it just can't be one person. And Bernie Sanders, at the end of the day, never had what it took to do the job because he didn't believe in it in the first place.
I think part of what's really painful about it is the libs all said that Bernie was a con man.
Yeah.
And we all defended him.
Yeah.
That is one of the worst parts of it if you were one of the Bernie people, because you look back on those freaking 183 comment threads you got into with libs who were saying Bernie was no revolutionary, he's full of it, he's a con artist, he's taking people's money, and we would defend him. And they were right, man. They were right for the wrong reasons, but in the end they were right. What they were defending wasn't any better, but they were right about what Bernie actually was.
Yeah, I told you guys I used to be a sweet summer child myself, because I used to tell people, like, yeah, man, come on, Bernie gonna fight for it. They taking money from ordinary workers.
Yeah.
They're not taking corporate money.
Yeah.
Because I was such a sweet summer child, I couldn't possibly imagine the kind of psychopath that would take money from poor, desperate working people and then betray them. I couldn't even see it. I'm like, who would do that? Like, so I couldn't wrap my head around that. So I was a sweet summer child back then. So now I'm like, the idea that I used to have, where if you don't take corporate cash, you somehow work for the people, is absurdly naive. And I laugh at my old ridiculous self for believing that. There is multiple forms of corruption. Corporate cash is a small first layer of the haystack. The first layer of the haystack is corporate money.
No, if anything, if you're a politician, that's better for you, because now you don't have to make the phone calls anymore. Right?
Exactly.
That frees you up. Now you can get the money online. You don't have to bother with any of that. They hate that shit. They hate it. Like hours. Imagine that. Hours every day. All these people in Congress and the Senate, they smile and dial. They smile and dial all day long.
That's their job.
If you're getting the grassroots, boom, you're freed up from that, right? You can spend more time fucking off.
Yeah, now I wanna shift this to this quick mini segment within the segment, because I want to show you guys how Bernie Sanders sold out, because I remember this speech. I haven't seen the clip, but I advocate, because I like to joke at myself. That's why I go hard at other people, because I make fun of myself too. Like, people are so fucking serious, you know what I mean? People get so offended. I make fun of myself. That's why I go hard at other motherfuckers, right? But at a certain point, maybe we should show a certain amount of grace to ourselves, right? Because many of us wasn't as fooled as we really believe we was. Because you see those old compilation video clips that like Jimmy would play of AOC saying, "Now I'm down to be a one-term congressperson. We're gonna oppose Nancy Pelosi." So yeah, we may have been misguided in some sense, but we have to also remember that these people did also commit massive political fraud.
Yeah.
So I make fun, and I think it's good to laugh at yourself, learn from your mistakes, talk about how it was a sweet summer child and stuff. But also, at the same time, this motherfucker did say he was looking to start a political revolution. You know what I mean?
Right.
So at a certain point, they are responsible, and we need to forgive ourselves for kind of falling for this con job. The same way we had to forgive ourselves for falling for Barack Obama, because these people are shameful con artists. But I know you want to chime in, Russell. Go ahead, and I want to play this clip to show why we wasn't necessarily wrong about these people. But go ahead.
I was going to say, and just to challenge Kit's assertion that he does a better Obama, I'm going to do one.
Whoa.
So I was going to say.
First of all,
listen, man, between the pizza and the Obama, you're getting on my nerves now, Kit.
Okay,
You
all right.
know,
Well,
man,
fine.
I've had enough of you deep dish motherfuckers. I was going to say, actually, it's not like Obama, because Obama, look, in the end, when he freaking betrayed what he stood for, you were forced to admit, you know what? He never really stood for anything. We projected all that shit onto him. He was always like, well, on the one hand, taxes are bad. And on the other hand, sometimes they're good. Right?
Damn,
He never,
good.
You got to be clear. You got to have them vote. Oh, look, Russ, I understand that we both live rent-free right now in Kit and Russell's heads, but let me be clear here. Obama has always been very clear on where he stands. A woman's right to choose is not politically expendable right now. So, fuck him.
Turns out I'm good at killing folks.
Damn, I wish I could do impressions that well. I've never been good impressions.
But look, he never really. I mean, yeah, there are certain specific things he promised, but mostly he kept it very vague, very on the one hand and on the other hand, and then we projected all this shit onto him. Whereas Bernie literally said, "We're having a revolution, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad." So yeah, there we were more directly misled. I think with Obama, there was more of us misleading ourselves.
Yeah, that's a fair analysis. Let's check out this video from one of my mutuals, Steve. Before Bernie Sanders sold out to the neoliberal establishment, listen to his support for third parties. And remember, AOC and the Justice Democrats, one of their original goals and motives of operandi was to work within the Democratic Party while also building third-party infrastructure for future candidates to run. Because the argument was, right now, third parties are screwed. We got to do what will make it so we can win most likely right now, but we should still build third parties. That's literally in the DSA Justice Democrat manifesto. And now this is what Bernie Sanders used to say. Let's listen.
Beginning, this is what would happen. You had the Democratic candidate running for something, the Republican candidate. Historically, Vermont had been a Republican state, a moderate Republican, not right-wing, and then Democrats. And then we had a third party. And what would happen is debate after debate, television program after television program, the progressive third-party people would in fact get the best response from the audiences. And people would say, you know, you guys make a lot of sense. And then you go up to them and say, you're going to vote for us? And they say, oh, of course we're not going to vote for you. You can't win. You're going to vote for the Democrat. You're a much better candidate. Everything you're saying is true, but we can't waste our vote. Waste our vote was the expression. So if there's any term that drives me crazy, is this quote-unquote waste our vote. Now, my own view, and it has been my view for many, many years.
So did we change? Or is this guy a fraudster?
It probably was a fraudster. Fraudster. Most likely, yeah.
Is that what we need in this country is what Jackson calls a rainbow coalition. But it has to be done outside of the Democratic Party.
So remember, CJ, you have a great video where many people who have like Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome, they pretend that Jimmy Dore and other people changed. But we catch these motherfuckers all the time. Bernie Sanders, Kyle Kalinske, and many other. We catch them in 4K. Well, this is not 4K, but we catch these motherfuckers straight up contradicting each other. Their own argument, their old selves beat the ass of their current selves. I could not imagine that. I'm literally just a few minutes ago making fun of my old self. I couldn't possibly imagine 2016 Nick beating my ass. Like, there's no way. How can your old self do this? It only happens when you're a con artist. I'll let the last few seconds finish here.
And I say that here, and I'm delighted to be here with PSA because they are a non-sectarian.
Oh, no.
We have worked with them, and you know, we recognize that honest people will have differences of opinion. But my own feeling.
Oh, sorry. I guess they probably should edit that last part out. But you got to see the beginning. He said we should organize outside the Democratic Party. Things have gotten worse since then, Bernie.
Yeah, well, that's before he made his money, man. He made his money now.
And he's writing those so fantastic books. And of course, again, that's super PAC. By the way, Russ, people were asking in the live stream chat, what happened in college for Jane Sanders? What was going on there?
Okay, so she got a job running a college where she took out loans on behalf of the college based on the idea that this money was going to generate so much more money in tuition because of all the buildings and programs she was going to start. So, and basically the legal and the college went bankrupt because of it. And the legal part of it was a lot of people claimed that the numbers she gave to the bank were total bullshit, made up, absurd proposition of what the money potential return was on this loan. And, you know, back then it was more pro-Bernie people saying, well, they're using that as leverage against him. That's why he's not really starting the revolution. You know, they're using that against him. Me personally, I always was like, yeah, she did that shit, but I don't want to draw attention to it. It's not him. And I always took it more like, you know, he married a bad woman. She's putting him in a bad spot. Now I'm like, yeah, man, he probably got some of that money, man.
You never know.
All right. Here's a couple of other receipts here. I'm not going to read this article. I'll just read the title. So, you know, the political article is the one that started everything. So a lot of other subsequent articles have been written based off of the political article, and this is one of them. This is from The Guardian with the headline that says Bernie Sanders urges left to back Biden to stop very dangerous Trump. And you would think the thing about these sort of professional managerial class publications like the Jacobin and this, when it's time to do a critical story on Bernie Sanders, it never ends up being critical of Bernie Sanders. This article literally just does a chronological order of things that happen without sort of like saying you shouldn't be doing this, Bernie, or none of that sort of critique. It kind of actually is a soft attempt at making Bernie Sanders like the good person in this scenario. And there's several things I can point to. I'll point to this one thing right here. Here's one quote from it. It says, around that time, this is Bernie speaking, I think we have got to bring the entire progressive community to defeat Trump or whoever the Republican nominee will be. Nick mentioned this earlier. But Sanders, nonetheless, said he planned to push Biden to tackle corporate greed and the massive levels of income inequality.
What?
Income and wealth inequality, across the U.S. Now, the reason I see this as a soft push, a soft sort of defense, because it's like, you see how they just say, Bernie Sanders says the progressives need to do this, and then it just quickly goes to say, nonetheless, this is what he's going to do while he's pushing him. At least he's pushing him left. This is sort of like what it's trying to softly push in that quote. And I'm going to go to a couple of other items here as far as receipts. Just to some quotes here now, because Nick mentioned this earlier. He really got a backlash over this shit. And I'm only going to cover a couple of
Everyone
tweets.
was getting his ass.
Yeah, everybody. And I think I got a couple of different, yeah, exactly. I got a couple of different people so you can see, like, it's not just like, online YouTube people. It's like it's a bunch of different, an array of people. Here's one, Dr. Jill Stein quoting or quote tweeting Bernie saying, Bernie, you would have won the primaries and the presidency had the DNC not tipped the scale in 2016-2020. If that didn't scare the Dems into ignoring their corporate wing, what makes you think idle words will get through now? This sheepdogging is pathetic. Wow. I love how she called that out.
And remember, this Dr. Jill Stein in the Green Party at one point offered Bernie Sanders a chance to be their nominee.
Yep, I remember that.
They went from that to now listen to what Dr. Jill Stein is saying about Bernie.
I didn't even know he was giving a speech. Like, did anyone give a shit?
Dude,
No.
Bernie Sanders
really, did anyone
Bernie
watch
Sanders
it?
I still subscribe to the Bernie Sanders YouTube channel, which
Nobody
has like a
watches
gazillion
that.
subscribers. But he does live streams all the time. They get like less views than you. The dude this they'll do a live stream like, let's organize for some progressive bullshit featuring Pramila Jayapal. We got Rashid Tlaib speaking, and it'd be like 200 people watching. Like,
Back in the day, that would have been 10,000,
Yes.
20,000.
Thousands of
More.
people.
I'm telling you guys, if you guys are curious, subscribe to Bernie Sanders' YouTube channel and look in awe at how low his video views.
Yeah, it's pretty terrible. I've noticed that too. And now let's read his tweet, the one that that she commented on. Then I get to Ajamu. This is what Bernie tweeted out. I'm
Oh,
live
wow,
in
you're
New
right. It
Hampshire
is
to give-
pathetic.
I'm live in New
Sorry.
Hampshire to give a major address on why Democrats must ignore the corporate wing of the party and instead put forth a bold agenda that addresses the needs of Americans struggling, working. Bernie Sanders, when he puts out these things where he's talking, it's like they treat him like the old uncle who has dementia. Okay, we're gonna do that. Not at all like sort of taking him serious when he says that, and that's what Dr. Jill Stein is speaking to here. It's like they didn't listen to you when they were rigging their leg. Why would they listen to any of this drivel now? And to her point, and Ajamu speaks on what she says to Bernie, and Ajamu says this: Dr. Stein never wavered even when they tried to get her to turn against me. It is that kind of moral and political consistency that a opportunist like Sanders does not understand. Sanders and progressives are frauds and won't fight for the interests of working class.
Damn, fancy fam.
Anybody want to chime in? Go ahead. Anybody want to chime
the
in?
Howie Hawkins wing of the Green Party was trash. But if we're gonna bring this kind of energy, this is John Baraka, Jill Stein energy, the fuck the Bernie Sanders and weak progressive energy, that is exactly what the Green Party needs, in my opinion, because the Green Party have been seen, mostly because of Howie Hawkins and bad PR, as weak, feckless liberals. We need a Jamus to come out and tell it how it is. That's why I speak the language that we do. That's why CJ speaks the language that we do. The era of the soy boy left has to die. We need to be radically motivated in our goal, and we gotta destroy anyone who's in the way of that. So I love the strength and the rhetoric that coming from the people who directly advising Dr. Cornel West. So it would be great to see Dr. Cornel West imitate Ajamu and Jill Stein more, which we comment on regarding the last interview. I think Mick the Press or whatever. You've seen him become more aggressive. He's responding to.
So
go ahead, CJ. Go ahead.
So when we're talking about candidates and cabinets that they put together or people around them, So we either have Cornel West, who has people like Ajamu, Shama Sawant, Chris Hedges, or you can turn to Bernie Sanders. And who is his foreign policy expert
Matt
person?
Duss.
Or you can have Matt Duss.
Matt Duss or
Come
Ajamu.
on, man. It's not even close. It's not even
Chuck
close.
Roka. Chuck Roka or Ajamu. Chuck Roka or Ajamu.
But Nick, if you want to read this, because this is your tweet that Ajamu also quote tweeted, and I got a couple of Ajamu quotes here. Go ahead.
So, dude, you guys have no idea how much Bernie pisses me off, fam. The amount of work I put in him for Bernie.
Well, I mean, come on, knocking on those doors, doing all that, sacrificing all of that. Everyone should be resentful and Bernie and angry towards Bernie. Everybody who did anything for that campaign should be furious, especially for those who really got it hard in Philadelphia, who were slapped around, assaulted by Democrat and Hillary Clinton delegates and supporters. Everybody should be fuming at Bernie Sanders for his failures.
Yeah,
he failed us.
I'm not tone policing myself. I'm not hiding my frustrations because the professional managerial class who tries to engage in toxic positivity and tone policing civility politics. I want them to know how angry the working class movement is that this project failed, that you guys stole our money. So that's why I said Bernie Sanders is the biggest, most shameless sellout in politics. How did this scumbag sleep at night? Like, once again, because I am saying this as this is the reckoning of them taking advantage of my old naive self. Well, I told you guys, my biggest weakness is I try to see the best in people, right? I didn't see through them because I couldn't imagine people taking money for working class people and betraying them. That is a concept that is so fucking foreign to me. I can't understand how people do it. So that's why, unlike Joe Manchin, who takes corporate money, and he take your dumbass money if you give it to him, I guess. But he's on yachts yelling down protesters. There's that famous video where he was on a yacht yelling down protesters. So he's telling you he's against you. Meanwhile, Bernie takes our money, literally listens to crying veterans and older people who don't have healthcare at his rallies, look at them in their eyes and say, I'm going to fight for you, knowing he has no intention of doing that. That's a level of psychopathy I don't understand. I'm just telling you guys. So anyway, let me read it, John. I keep ranting. Here's a John Moore tweet. Bernie's comments are incoherent because Bernie displays an interesting kind of cognitive dissonance whenever he discusses Biden and Democrat Party politics. Bernie knows West is correct, but he has to oppose West because his own surrendering to logic of lesser of two evilism. And we know that he knows West is correct because I show you guys a clip of him arguing for third parties before. So anyway, CJ, here's Nico. What Nico say?
Yeah. I just want to read a couple more comments.
My brother from Hotspot, Nico House. Bernie Sanders have completely given up on even pretending to be different from Democrats. And CJ, isn't this interesting? We talk about this with AOC as well. They know they lost the real left.
Yeah.
That's why AOC doing sunscreen fucking bullshit. And at this point, AOC and Bernie Sanders made a calculation that anyone who still rides with them, anyone who's still riding with their sellout ass is going nowhere. So it doesn't matter what they do now. They might as well try to appeal to Elizabeth Warren liberals now.
Well, yeah, if you ever sit in on the chats of these lib channels like Majority Report, and you look at the point of view that they have, I don't even know why they're watching the Majority Report. Like, what do you like MSNBC with a lower budget? Like, that's your taste, that's your aesthetic, because that's what those people are. Like, you look at them, man. I saw somebody in their chat go, I've had 5 boosters. Thank you, Dr. Fauci. May I have another?
What?
I swear to God, I saw somebody say that in their fucking chat,
man.
And I'm just
screenshot that, man.
If I tell you who it was, you'll know. I'm not gonna say right now, but I'll tell you offline. But Yeah, man. You look at that and you're like, man, I mean, these are just CNN, MSNBC people who want to feel like they're cooler than that, right? It's the way the people in Williamsburg are basically the same people living out in Westchester, just like a little younger, and they want to dress in a hat and they want to look kind of cool. They want to feel like they're cooler than that. But they're exactly the same people at a different point on the timeline or with a different aesthetic. But that's it. I mean, that's your answer. Like the people who stayed in the Bernie thing, they're just fucking libs. They're just libs who want to feel like they're not. They want to feel like they're cool. They want to feel like they're leftier than libs, but they're fucking libs. So they go, they watch it, they say, "Oh, I get my shit online, man. I'm not like my parents. I'm not a lib. I'm a progressive. I'm a leftist."
Hey,
and then,
cool kids.
and then you got these people, these Majority Report people, and Kyle. Look, that's their audience at this point. That's their base. They would have to completely change their rhetoric to try to cut in on the kind of audience we have, the Jimmy audience, the Max Blumenthal audience, the Aaron audience. They'd have to completely shift their politics. They're going to lose a lot of money. And at this point, they got so much bank. They're in the upper class. And they got connections now to people who are upper class. Like, they go that way. They're going to get a lot of backlash from. Why you think they hang with Marianne like that, man? That's what they want to ride with. That's who they are. That's who they are. Somebody who's no threat at all to the establishment, but they can pretend that they're rebels because they didn't run right to Biden. They waited. They backed some fucking half-ass Course of Miracles guru bullshit for a few months before they backed Biden. See, we're progressives. That's it. That's what that whole thing is. It's just nonsense. Because if you actually meant any of that Bernie stuff, if it was more than, having some fun waving signs in Washington Square Park, you can't be with what that is today. And if you're with it, you never meant it, like Bernie himself.
Yeah.
So
Bernie is one hell of a conman. He was able to get so many people to follow him. Millions would show up. They would shut down, stadiums or block traffic just for the event because he would fill up stadiums. It's phenomenal seeing somebody who had lightning in a bottle and then opened it up just to let it go out. That is something I just am still even come to terms with. It's sad, very sad.
Well, that's the way a lot of people feel with Obama. The dystopian hellscape that we live in now can largely be laid at his feet. He had the greatest opportunity that any president has had since FDR to really change the trajectory. That was a moment you really could have sent these bankers to jail. Yeah, you're so worried about Trump. Oh, Trump. There wouldn't have been there's no doubt in my mind. If Obama had locked up all the bankers, no matter what else he did, Trump never would have been elected.
So I want to wrap the segment up, and before we got to get out of here, this is what I talked about during the preface. I just want to include it for the segment, and I'm open for pushback for this as well, because this is once again easy ratio of the story. Where I say the Bernie Sanders movement was a mistake and shows why you should never build in a Democratic Party. And obviously, I got an easy ratio over 1,000 likes. A lot of people agree. Some people said it was beneficial because it taught them to move on from the Democratic Party. They're also great friends, like my friend Monica here, who pushed back on me, and I think it's fair pushback. And I'm asking the panel, what you said, it was not. I'm grateful for his movement because I met lifelong friends, including you, and I learned so much. I'm grateful. Now, once again, I'm not even saying this is a bad point. And I say it's a mistake, not necessarily a waste. Because I am talking to people now with my Kansas City Mutual Aid who I'm radicalizing. And this is my new thought, because the Bernie movement will be a true tragedy if we don't learn from our mistakes, right?
So it's like this, Nick. It's like
Hold on. The movement that we build, the policies that we shift to the left, the community that we build, we could have done that without spending hundreds of millions of dollars. Because to be honest, I'd rather us be closer to Medicare for all and closer to a real left agenda than RBN existing. You know what I mean? RBN exists as a backlash of this failed movement. I'd rather the working class have material victories than a wasted hundreds of millions of dollars for a lesson that we could have won without that. But with that said, Monica, who I had deep respect for, she brings up a good point, and I'm not saying I'm 100% right on this. That's why I asked the panel, what are your guys' thoughts? And this is a good way to end the segment, CJ, if you're okay with that. Do you guys think the Bernie movement was a mistake? Do you guys think I'm wrong? Feel free to put back on what's your thoughts on that.
The question is not narrow enough. That's why, because you can answer it a couple of ways, because you can answer it in the way that Monica answered it, meaning you gain something material from the ride. That doesn't mean the sort of movement was beneficial if the movement leader was a fraud. Now, I'm going to give you an analogy that has nothing to do with this type of thing, but it'll be like if you have a child when you're 14. Now you're grown and everything's great, and you don't regret your child.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So there's benefit. You get what I'm saying? But are you saying you would have your child again at 14 if you would?
Yeah, that's
no. And I'm saying, you know what I'm saying? It's both. We're not taking away that you gain, like we probably wouldn't have RBN because Nick wouldn't have been so upset with Bernie Sanders that he went radical. You get what I'm saying? And met Rome. Yeah. So it was a domino effect. That doesn't mean we want to go through another movement and spend $400 million on a a Like that's not what that means.
How about this? How about this?
Somewhere,
Instead, would you be on board? Would you ever trust Bernie Sanders or another Bernie Sanders type politician ever after what happened with the Bernie Sanders movement? Maybe instead of do you regret the Bernie Sanders movement from happening? Would you trust an individual like Bernie, or should we have ever trusted Bernie in the first place?
To that question, that's why it's absurd. And I'm glad all of us pushed back on the Marianne Williamson bullshit. Because I explained before, and I said way before Marianne Williamson was even a thing. I said for me to ever fall for the Bernie grift again, they would have to be so exceptional. I couldn't. Yeah. Like, it'd be like Rome if Rome ran. Like if Rome ran, I'm like, yeah, that must be true. Shit, I don't know, man. Maybe we should.
And then what you gonna do when he takes your money?
Like not even Cornel West. Like not even Cornel West would be able to run and get the same sort of support if he was running as a Democrat. He would not. He would not.
Yeah, right. So if Cornel West ran as a Democrat, that shit wouldn't. RBN, that shit would not be popping, fam.
No, it wouldn't.
Someplace in the multiverse, Nick is a rabid capitalist running a chain of car dealerships. Just to put a button on what I was saying about it before. It wasn't just me who came into that election season with that perspective that got red-pilled. Millions of people got red-pilled by that experience. And I can't imagine what else could have happened other than a situation where a guy who had genuinely left politics was leading in all the polling against the likely Republican nominee, and the Democratic Party and the media did everything they could to kneecap him. Because until that experiment played out in real time, what was there to make you rethink the idea that the Democrats really want it to be Scandinavia, or that the media really wants to elect somebody who's genuinely left? It's just because the public doesn't want it, or they can't win, or it's not strategically viable, or it's the Republicans. You had to, for people like me, we had to see that happen to realize everything we'd ever been told about politics was a fraud, that it was all a lie. You had to run the experiment. What if you had a guy who genuinely had the politics that they claim to have, who could win? What would they do? And we saw what they did, and it changed everything for millions of people to see that.
Yep.
Kit, were you gonna chime in, Kit or Nick? Because I think I had my last final word.
I think we all pretty much answered how we feel. I mean, but at the end of the day, we're not for Bernie. I don't think any of us would met each other. So I mean, some caveat, some good stuff from the Bernie Sanders movement. RBN exists, Due Dissidents, the Jimmy Dore Show, Hardlands Media. So there's some good. And all of our lovely audience, too. We would not have met all of you beautiful people. So there.
So
it's what you call a painful lesson.
Yeah, so we gotta there was a great post-duopoly show. We'll wrap up here very soon. But if you guys are ever interested, and if you want to forgive yourself, look up old quotes from Bernie Sanders. And ask yourself, was you really so wrong? Because I'll just read one. I did this segment before, how I missed the young Bernie, the fuck the Democratic Party Bernie. Now we stuck with the old Bernie, the slow your roll Bernie, the vote for the Ukraine war funding, which is out of control Bernie, the have no soul Bernie. Anyway, I'll read one here. 1990, Bernie Sanders. Why should we work within the Democratic Party if we don't agree with anything the Democratic Party says? Oh, no, Bernie. That's a great question from young Bernie. Maybe you should consider that. Why should we support Joe Biden over Dr. Cornel West when we don't agree with anything Joe Biden does? That's the only thing I will replace. What he says, I will replace that with does. I don't agree with anything they do, so why should I support them? But anyway, just for a second time, I just want to show you guys that. Any last thoughts, Kid? I'll pass the Kid first, then Russell. Shout out Harlan's. You had Jimmy on in the morning not too long ago. That was a fire show.
Thank you. We're actually going to have one of the Libertarian candidates, Chase Oliver, who's running for the Libertarian nomination. Shout out to Larry Sharp for having me reach out to him. So he's going to be on my show tomorrow morning. I'm going to talk to him about free speech, third-party movements, and overall what's going to happen with the Libertarian Party, because we got to hear from different perspectives. And 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So tune in, Central Standard Time. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah, it should be fire. Russell.
What's
coming up with Due Dissonance?
Well, I am leaving the country a week from today.
Oh, you found a way out. Don't come back, man. We love you, man. Run.
So
Run.
This is my last post-duopoly show until October. It's gonna be the middle of it'll be, I guess it'll be like 2 shows that Keaton will be doing. I'm going to Rome and I'm going to Greece. It's a bucket list trip, man. I'm a history geek, classical antiquity geek. It's one of those things, man. I think a lot of people came out of COVID. I'm definitely one of them, saying, you know, that thing you said you're going to do next year, and you've been saying that for 30 years, which I've been saying I'm going to take that trip. Don't assume you can do it next year. If it's in your power to do it now, do that shit now.
Do it.
So I'm doing it.
Have fun.
Yeah, so this is a great fun stream to send you off on. We see you back in October. One thing I was considering anyway, CJ, maybe when Russell is gone, we could have like guest post-duopolists.
Fill in, I was gonna.
There's a lot of great
having some fill-ins. Yeah.
There's a lot of great candidates. So for maybe when Russell's gone, we can have maybe someone like Misty. You guys know are the friends.
Misty's great.
Some other post-duopolists can join our panel to fill in, because it'd be great to hear from other post-duopolists. That's the biggest litmus test. We believe we're a litmus test, right? So if you gotta be a post-duopolist, and it'd be good to have a good rotation for the post-duopoly show every once in a while. So probably give you guys a good idea. But anyway, obviously, I know y'all go. We got dip out.
I'll let you read super chats. That's all that's left. You got super chats left. That's all you got. So I'm gonna head over to dinner, 8:00 on the West Coast, and that's dinner time over here. So I'm gonna go. But we should be back. I think we're gonna be here tomorrow. But you'll see. For here tomorrow and Wednesday for some shows. Nothing to announce, but I'll see you guys. Great show.
Yeah, I just have
I'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, I'll just read the last few super chats here. All your heroes are going to get MK Ultra.
Oh.
I worry about Rome, fam. It's like when you guys see that movie, and I'm glad that movie is out and is doing so well. The reception has been incredible. Because I told you guys, fam, you guys thought it was bullshit. When Rome came to Kansas City, I told you guys, Rome is exactly who he advertised himself to be. Every second of every minute, he's thinking about what he can do to build a movement. Like, there's no rest in him. You guys think I probably was just saying that to hype him up. Now you guys see the movie. That is real ass shit. That's why Rome got a documentary. Because when you meet that guy, you know you immediately recognize you're meeting a character. But I don't. Anyway, I say that because Rome is the guy who I'm worried more than anybody about. He's real different, and that's why regarding what I said earlier, it would take someone exceptional, maybe someone like a Rome, to me ever fall for a Bernie shit again. Which is why it's ridiculous for people saying, "Yeah, I know Marianne not as good as Bernie, but what if you're not as good as Bernie? We shouldn't give a fuck." But anyway, there's a few more. I know it's late. I gotta get out here too, so I'll read a few more here. 499, thanks for
Cool
Blue. Jamal Thomas. He said progressives are not Democrats, meaning you are one or the other. Will said, Cool Blue 71. The old trick used to be saying you're a progressive. That separates you from Democrats. Then Democrats started calling themselves progressive.
Yeah, they stole it.
Then the trick was to call yourself a socialist because progressives wouldn't call themselves that. Now they call themselves socialists now. So that's why I call myself a commie. Because I'm like, I want you guys to know there's a distinction here. That's exactly why I do it, to let you know there's a difference between us and these Democratic socialists. Anyway, thanks for the $5. Bernie got more than 100K from Walmart heir James Walton.
Yeah. Well, that's Sabby was showing that, right?
Yeah, I did not know that at the time. I absolutely did not know that at the time. He is 100% corrupt DNC shill and rigged the elections himself. West 2024. Man, it's gonna be very interesting seeing these progressives walk this road of not supporting Dr. West. Thank for $10 ARJ. Man, I'm getting tired. I was a liberal and my sister was a progressive back in 2016 going into 2024. My sister remains a progressive apologist and I'm an anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, post-duopoly leftist. And I don't understand that because after Super Tuesday, when Bernie Sanders left, I told you guys I made a coordinated effort, made a coordinated decision that I'm going to double down and become more radical and make the establishment pay for not taking the moderate choice. That's why people like Kyle Kulinski, Crystal Ball, and others who did the exact opposite completely perplexed me. Like, you guys saw Bernie Sanders lose and shifted to the right? What? My reaction was the exact opposite. Like, I'm gonna scare all you motherfuckers. You guys didn't want the Democratic Socialists. Now you got to deal with my black Marxist ass. Anyway, I want to make sure I don't miss anyone. I think there's two more. Thank you guys for sticking with me here. Thank you for the $2.
Yeah.
Wrong. Bernie is a teammate scoring in your team's net. Absolutely. Thank you for the $2. This last one I see, not to shut anyone out because I read this one earlier. So anyone that come after this, I'm not trying to ignore you, but this is why I'm gonna cut it off at. Thank you for the $5. Follow Caitlin Johnstone. Caitlin Johnstone's base as hell. YouTube does not allow me to post her links, of course. That's
what?
Weird. That's weird.
All right.
Doesn't surprise me.
But anyway, thank you guys for sticking in with us for our post-duopoly stream. We do these bi-monthly, so we take a break next week. We'll be back next week. Russell will be gone. I'm sure Key may be back. But we're going to have a guest post-duopolist probably on the next show to fill in for Key. Always great to have a conversation with you guys. Have a great night, and much love and solidarity to all you guys.
Thank you.